Hello, everyone. I'm Insane Lane, and welcome to Tea and Rose's Book Club. I almost said the other name because I'm still getting used to it. Wow, is it hot? And I think that applies no matter where you live this week. It is hot. So in addition to being too damn hot, everything that blooms when it's hot is blooming. So if I am sneezy, that would be why, and I'm sorry. But, blame the pollen count. Or this crazy weather that we're having. Oh. I did have a puppy begging for attention, but I ignored him, so now he's gone to the couch. He'll come back. So, in Book World, we have all three of our main characters in play. They're all the main character because they're all getting like equal time. So we've got the two brothers and the sister, all of whom are now engaging with the person we know they're going to end up with. And they all have one like romantic foil going on as well. Because Lane, we know, is going to end up with Lizzie, but he's got to jettison the ex-wife, which is going to be harder than he thought, because she's knocked up by the father, who is missing at this point. Though we were told that, like, oh, he left for, where was it, Cleveland? Like, an hour before they found out that the family fortune is apparently gone. They're not really sure why or how yet, but the money is just gone. But nobody seems to have put any effort into tracking him down yet. Like, seriously. So are we just saying that he's fled with the money, or he's just fled the debts or something? Are we, like, what I'm saying is, anyone ever going to catch up to the father? Are we ever going to actually see him? Because we only had one scene with him where he's yelling at the daughter and telling her that he sold her into an arranged marriage. And that's the only scene other than flashback that we got with him. So I'm wondering if we ever get another scene with him. Do any of the kids like track him down and confront him about what he's done? Does he come back at some point? Does he turn up dead? Like, and we still don't know if the accountant lady is that murder? Was that by her own hand? We don't know. Because both have been said repeatedly and nobody seems certain yet. So that could still go either way. And then we've got the other brother who's injured, but we don't entirely know the nature of that yet. We know that he was like severely disabled. We're just not entirely sure how or why yet. And he's got the good Christian gonna redeem his battered heart girl. He's gonna end up with her. And the foil is the rich girl that he gets hookers that look like her, that he was in love with, but now that he's like disabled, she's not interested, or I don't know. I thought that they had been a thing before he got hurt, but apparently not. Also, I think she's married to somebody else and still doesn't seem interested, so he's just got like a hang up for her, which is kind of creepy. It's definitely creepy a little when you hire hookers that look like somebody that you know and like have a crush on. That is definitely a little bit creepy. I mean, I'm all for fantasizing, and I get that, but I have rules about it. No fantasizing about real people. Like movie characters, TV characters, book character, video game character, anything that's a character, that's fine. But anything like a real person, like I'm sure this happens. I'm sure people like fantasize about famous celebrities, like I don't know, Julia Roberts or Angelina Jolie, I'm sure, Brad Pitt. I'm sure there are people that fantasize about them, but I don't. I draw the line at that because that's a real person. Just because they're famous doesn't mean they're not a real person anymore. Like, that's why it always, like, I know, like, being rich and famous is a good life and it's all that, but it comes with a lot of headache too. Like, I've been trying to avoid all the nonsense around potential Taylor Swift wedding next weekend, and it's impossible. But I'm also going like, dear God, I feel sorry for this woman. I mean, yeah, she's one of the richest people in the world. She's incredibly powerful, incredibly famous, but also she's just trying to freaking get married, and they're having to hire like thousands of extra security guards, and they're possibly holding the wedding in a building that has no windows so that paparazzi can't take pictures. And like, I just having to go to all that freaking trouble and have so much of a circus when you should just be able to have, a private ceremony and day to yourself because it's a private personal event and people should respect that. That's not what happens in the real world, but it should. Like, I'm sure that, they will sell wedding pictures to the highest bidder and the whole world will get to see. You don't need to fly drones up to the windows to try and take like unauthorized photos. That's creepy. But for now, I'll rise for a national anthem and then we'll get back into our chapters. We're over halfway now, which is good. I will say, at least this book is so much easier to read. Not only because it has actual paragraph breaks, the font is better, the page layout is better, and while it's not the best writing in the world, it's still a hell of a lot better than what we've read before. So, be right back after this.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they go, "Oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you." Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you can make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware that they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important bit, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you're entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say, "No thank you," then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, "Yes, please, that's kind of you." And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind, and you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they are unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea, and they can't answer the question, "Do you want tea?" because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea, and they said yes, but in the time it took you to boil the kettle or brew the tea and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down, make sure the unconscious person is safe, and this is the important part again, don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they are safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it, going, "But you wanted tea last week," or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat, going, "But you wanted tea last night." If you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you are able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to make myself a cup of tea.
I've not walked away. I'm just a little behind. 2-6. Oh, Doesn't help trying to put on makeup. Your makeup is melting. Hello, Sarah. I'm glad you made it and got the kitties to stop chewing the wires. It is so hot. My lipstick may not survive the evening. It did not want to go on. So, first things first, as always, we have all of our lovely pantheon of ducks, all of whom have names. Let's see if I can remember them all, because some of them I, named after. So we have Ralph, Charlotte, Steve, Paddington, Caspian, Inspector Clouseau, Jumbo, Sally, Bill, Xavier, Eloise, Pongo, Mitch, Sansu, Bob with two B's, Sasha Bartholomew, Alex, Chuckles, Melman, Naruto, Jeremy DeWitt, Cinemark, Alan Tudyk, Jeeves, Playboy, Jethro, Gilbert, Vixen, Dennis, Rosie, House, Susie, Wolfie, Russell, Mark, Glacial, Cicero. I always forget Cicero when I'm setting up the ducks, and I don't know why. Baby Halliwell, John Glenn, Little Chickadoo, Captain Blaze, Ferguson, Libby Doe, Ocean's Gate 7, Dinglehopper, Madison, Leonard, Jack, Jacquard, Lulu, Marty, Akasha, Dr. Breadside Manor, Autolycus, Deja, Insidious, Cleopatra, Extra Crispy, Ralph, Wisp, Dougie, Katy Perry, Calvin, Abraham, Nicola, Dewey, Gretzky, Cosmopolitan. I named the batter duck Schwartz. If you get the joke, I love you. Pollywag duck is Misty. The Queen Midas duck is Miney. And the Black Swan duck I have named Padme. If you know, you know. So that is our current pantheon of ducks. If you would like to add to the pantheon of ducks, there should be a link at the top. And for $10, I will draw a random duck out of this bag and add it to our stage. We're getting low on random ducks, but that's okay because we have plenty. And this is not all of them. I still have half a box full of ducks that are not painted yet that need to be. But we have our lovely painted ducks. We have a Christmas Story duck, Julia Roberts at the Polo Match duck, Porygon duck, Mark Zuckerberg duck, Evil Knievel, Rooster, and Yoshi duck. And I am still taking ideas for painted ducks. If you have any ideas, please leave them in the chat or in the Discord, and I will do my very best to make your idea for a duck come to reality. Because we still got plenty to paint. I've got like 3 that are like half finished. And if you would like to help a girl out a little more, we have these handcuffs, which for $25 I will put on for half the evening. They are real handcuffs, not safety cuffs. So there is a key in this pouch that goes on the desk. There's also another key on a string around the monitor because we practice safety here and make sure that there is always a key within reach. Which if you are ever playing with handcuffs, you should too. Or for the outrageous sum of $50, I will chug one of these Skittles drinks. We have now tried all 4 flavors, and I gotta say, even though I do not like orange flavor, the orange flavor of these wins. It is the best flavor out of the 4 of them. And even though I don't, as in yogurt, the Schwartz, yes, yogurt and the Schwartz. Yep. I cannot wait for the sequel to come out. It's like, I don't usually look forward to sequels, but currently there are 2 that I am desperately looking forward to. One is Spaceballs 2. The other is Practical Magic 2, which somebody sent me the trailer to, and I've not been brave enough to watch it yet. Because generally, as a general rule, because my version of autism is I'm the person that sees patterns everywhere, and I have extreme predictive capabilities, trailers tend to ruin the movie. So I don't watch trailers. But with Practical Magic, I've waited so long for it and wanted it for so long. I really want to watch the flippin' trailer. But I'm really worried that it will spoil the entire movie, or because it is a sequel, we have to acknowledge it may suck. It's also a 20 years later sequel, which those have their own legacy. Hi, Deacon. I know it's hot. My face is already melting. This is why I've not worn concealer, and you can see how red and horrible my skin is for the last 3 weeks, because there is no point in applying concealer when it's this hot. It's just going to melt off your face. It's going to get on your clothes. It's going to get on your hands and get on everything. So it's like, no. And it's a waste of makeup, which, not exactly the cheapest. Though Amazon is on my shit list because And I say, yeah, so we have drinks to sponsor. To finish that point, I have a spoon, I have water, we're good. But it is now random because we've tried all 4 flavors. So unless you specify the flavor that you would like me to drink, I will just grab one at random. But yeah, Amazon is on my shit list because I got a package from them today. I ordered 1 bottle of nail polish because they had Amazon Prime Day, so it was on for 99 cents. So I ordered, it's a cute top, thank you. It's actually a dress. It's a maxi dress that I got from Giant Tiger forever ago. But thank you. I ordered 1 bundle of nail polish from Prime Days, and it came in a box the size of a shoebox. 1 little itty bitty bottle of nail polish. Okay? This is what I bought. And it came in a box the size of a shoebox that was crammed full of paper. I almost couldn't find the nail polish. I'm like, did they just send me an empty box? Like, because there's so much paper. There's like this much metric ton of paper crammed into the box. And then the nail polish itself was shrink wrapped in plastic and wrapped in sticky bubble wrap. You know how we save the environment? We start fining companies. Let's just say $1. $1 per package that is overpackaged and wasteful. Let's just do that. If we do that to the top 3 companies in the world, we will save the environment by next week. Like, it is so ridiculous. And I know people in several other countries, it's not like that in other countries. It's not like that outside North America. Because in Europe, they crack down on their asses for it. I have someone who lives there. They actually have the option when they buy something, they have the option of getting like the full original packaging or having the packaging reduced. And there's no charge for it or anything, but because they have like laws and shit, and they actually hold companies accountable over there. They fine them and they make them pay. Because that's the thing, like Microsoft and whatever, they've been fined in the US and Canada several times. Guess what? They don't pay. And nobody makes them pay. In Europe, they make them pay. Or they get like cut off. You're not a company anymore. You don't get to do business here because you got fined and you didn't pay it. Or you're, still doing the thing that you got fined for. Therefore, you don't get to operate as a company. That's theoretically how it's supposed to work here. The problem is it's not enforced. But yeah, no, we need to hold these companies accountable. They're causing so much of the problem, and they make $1 bajillion a year. They can afford it, and they need to clean up their own mess. Excuse me. All right, so we got our lovely book. Right? It's so wasteful because all the paper, all the bubble wrap, it all just goes, like, most of it goes in the trash because, like, the paper at least I can recycle, but the sticky bubble wrap I can't. And why do you need such a gigantic box for something this big? Like, could have sent it to me in a, like, regular tiny bubble mailer envelope and it would have been fine. You don't need a gigantic box that I could put winter boots in. All right, so we'll put the cover to the side so it doesn't get distracting. Where were we? Okay, I'm not sure who we're starting with. Yeah, paper mache is an idea. Done that once or twice. I had to do that in school once. I needed to use you know how you hi Sadale. How with paper mache, all the tools, the little cheap ones you buy for pumpkin carving, they're excellent for paper mache. So the art teacher had one, but due to there being an accident like a couple months prior, she was, shall we say, she had a little PTSD about handing any of the students sharp things. So I had to like beg her for like 2 days to let me use one of the blades that I needed, which I wasn't the one who had the accident, and I'd use those kind of blades and others at home for years, which is the only reason she eventually let me. But yeah, she was freaked out after a girl put an art scalpel through her hand. She was working with clay and her hands were wet from the silt. And it just slipped, and yeah, she put the blade right through the middle of her hand. So that kind of freaked the teacher out. You have that in the US too? See, we don't have that option here. I'd never heard of that until today. That is weird. I wonder why they have that in the States and not here. Because usually they're pretty similar. I mean, almost everything I order from Amazon, even though I'm in Canada, like 50-50, it comes from the States. Though, to be fair, I'm half hour from the border, so that could have something to do with it. But I do know they have a warehouse in Mississauga, because that's where the other half of the stuff comes from. It either comes from, like, just over the border in New York, or it comes from Mississauga. But yeah, I've never had any packaging options. Oh, you cut your fingers with an X-Acto blade? Ow. Yeah, that would do it. I've never seriously cut myself unintentionally. No, I'm not a huge fan of X-Acto blades. I never have been, because I don't like the way they feel in your hand. You can't really, like, get a good grip on them. They don't have a good, like, handle, so I don't like them. So I generally don't use them, but I do love a good art scalpel. That was my go-to for a lot of things. I'm sure I still have one somewhere. No idea where, but I'm sure I still have one because I had 2 or 3 of them. It's probably in with my charcoals because that's what I used it for. You need a good blade to sharpen charcoals. Chapter 27. As Edward sat in his chair, he was floating on a cloud of beefeater gin, his body numb to the point where he was actually able to entertain a fantasy of potential strength and flexibility. In fact, he could imagine that getting to his feet would be an impulse easily followed, an uncomplicated, unconscious change of location requiring nothing more than a passing thought and a pair of thigh muscles that were happy enough and capable enough to do the job. Okay, what happened to this guy? Like, his whole body is wrecked. Like, what happened? Oh, Beefeater Gin? It's a brand. I've seen it. I'm fairly certain. He was not drunk enough to actually give it a try, however. The sound of a knocking on his door brought his head up. Well, well, well. Given that he wasn't prepared to try the whole vertical thing, at least this arrival represented another alternative reality he could partake in. And this one he would not deny. Oh, this is the hooker. With a grunt, he tried to sit a little straighter in his chair. There would be no going and opening the way for the woman, and he felt badly about that. A gentleman should always perform such a service for a member of the fairer sex, and he didn't care that his guest was a prostitute. The female deserved to be treated with respect. That is some leftover Black Dagger Brotherhood writing referring to her as the female. Come in, he called out, slurring his words. Come on in. Oh yeah, this is the scene you don't want to arrive to as a working girl. Dude is so drunk he can't stand up. Now, if you're very lucky, you can fool around and stall things for a bit and he will pass out. And then you can watch TV for a couple hours till he wakes up. And he will believe you that you had a very good time. because he's incredibly drunk and doesn't remember shit. Oh, but when they're drunk and horny and they still have energy, like they drank an espresso in there somewhere, that's the worst. Because they're an uncoordinated mess who can't control themselves and they can't, like, they're falling all over you, they're breathing booze breath at you. You're 50-50 in your head going, is this guy going to puke on me or pass out on top of me, which can also be a problem. And also, the thing is, when some guys are really drunk, they can't get it up. And that can lead to problems. Not just of the, hey, you're not doing your job variety, which, dude, I am. You're the one who's fucking plastered. But, you know, when guys aren't getting it in that department, they can get mad, and that's your cue to leave quickly. But this is why you get paid up front. Because at least if you have to run, you got paid. Nothing is worse than showing up and leaving without getting paid. Not that you allow such things. The door opened slowly, and what was on the other side, standing directly under the porch light, was... Edward's heart stopped beating, and then began to hammer. They got it right, he breathed. Finally... No! No! Finally, Bo got it right. No! They dragged my dog into this! No! Your request is denied. It's even spelled the right way for Baudelaire. No! This is not okay! I do not get to drag my dog into this! He's probably on the couch going, what? What are you doing? What? I'm sleepy. What? Where's my tail? If that name is frequently used, I'm going to substitute it. Hopefully this is the only time it's said. The woman blinked. I'm sorry, she said roughly. What did you say? The voice, too. How had they matched the voice? Come in, he rasped, motioning with his free hand, the one that didn't have a glass in it. Please. And do not be afraid, he thought to himself. Oh, yeah. After all, in his current position, he was sitting in darkness, the illumination on the countless trophies of shelves not quite reaching his face or his body. Yeah, no. I'm sorry, but any experienced girl is not walking into a darkened room with dude just, like, half unconscious sitting in a chair with a bottle of empty booze next to him. No. You're not even walking in the room. No way in hell. I mean, if you got a bodyguard with you, that's different. But if you're on your own, no. Especially because they're on a horse farm. They're in the middle of nowhere. So that changes the dynamics. Which was deliberate, of course. Oh, great. He didn't like looking at his own self. There was no reason to make the whore's job harder by forcing her to have a clear picture of him. Dude, you're expecting to fuck her, but you don't want her to see your face? Do you have a leather hood that we haven't seen yet? Because that's about the only way that's going to work. Edward, she said. In his drunken haze, all he could do was close his eyes as he went both limp and very hard in a critical place. I don't think that works like that. You sound as beautiful as I remember. He hadn't heard Sutton Smythe's voice in person since before his trip down south. Wait, didn't she go to him and try to buy a horse like yesterday? Am I confusing characters? Probably. There's too damn many. And after he'd returned, he'd been unable to listen to any of her voicemails, to the point where he'd ended up throwing that particular phone and number away. Oh, Edward. Dear Lord, there was pain in that voice, as if the woman were looking into his soul and responding to the tangle of anguish he carried around with him since he'd been told he was in fact going to live. And indeed, it was too close to what Sutton actually sounded like. Funny, during his captivity, he'd lost consciousness 3 times over the course of the 8 days he'd been held. Each time he'd been in the process of fainting. Sutton had been the last thing he'd thought of, envisioned, heard, mourned. It hadn't been his family. Not his beloved business, not the house he'd grown up in, nor the wealth, nor all the things he was going to leave undone. It had been Sutton Smythe. So were they actually a thing or were they not a thing? Because I would like the third time when he'd been unable to see anymore, when he'd been unable to tell what was his sweat and what was his blood, when the torture had taken him to a place where the survival switch had been flipped off, and he no longer prayed to get free but for death. Sutton Smythe had again, once again, been the only thing on his mind. Edward. No, he held up his hand. Don't speak any more. Oh, that's always fun. She was doing so well already. He didn't want the woman to get ahead of herself and screw it all up. Does he send them a script or something? Come here, he whispered. I want to touch you. Opening his eyes, he drank in her approach. Oh, what a perfect silver dress that was. The hem of the gown down to the floor, her surprisingly tasteful jewels sparkling even when the light was behind her, and she also had the kind of clutch Sutton had always taken with her to formal events. The small, silk-covered square perfectly dyed to the hue of the dress, though she herself had always said, matchy-matchy was so 50s. Edward. There was both confusion and yearning in his name. Please, he found himself begging. Just no talking. I only want to touch you. Please. Well, she's getting paid, so. You think it's the real Sutton? And he's so drunk he's not noticing? Oh, that's right. She ran away from a thing, didn't she? She like had a meltdown and ran away from a thing. So yeah, it's really her and he thinks it's this is going to go badly. What do we think? He starts like getting all handsy with her and then the actual hooker shows up and he goes, "Oh my god." Her body trembled before him. He felt reality shift as he allowed himself to go with the ruse, falling into a fantasy that it was actually Sutton, that she had come to him, that they were finally going to be together, even though he was ruined. God, it was enough to make him teary, but that didn't last long, because she stumbled and her eyes grew impossibly wide, which meant she had seen his face. Don't look too hard, he said. I know I'm not as I used to be. That's why the lights are low. And she doesn't know that he's expecting a hooker, because why would she? Yeah, Deacon, apparently the whole family is broke. We don't entirely know why yet. Just that the father racked up massive debts somehow. We don't even really know how. We don't know the details yet. Nobody's talked to the father yet, or he doesn't work in the Bourbon company anymore, but he runs like a horse farm now. And he has like family money because he's the oldest too. And it sounds like all the kids had trust funds that they came into at various ages, so he's the oldest, so he would have more access to that money than the younger ones. So he's fine like financially. Actually, I think he doesn't even know what's going on with the family fortune because nobody's told him yet. Edward reached out and showed her his hands, but these are unmarred, and unlike many parts of me, they still work just fine. Let me touch you. I'll be careful, but you have to kneel down. I'm not too well on my feet anymore, and I must confess to having imbibed. Oh, God. God, he doesn't know he's talking to the real girl. The prostitute was shaking from head to toe as she started to lower herself, and he sat forward. Why is she going along with this? Why isn't she going, what the fuck are you talking about? Offering her his arm as if she were a lady disembarking from a car, as opposed to a working girl who was prepared to let a cripple have sex with her body in exchange for $1,000. Really? In America, a rich guy can get a hooker to come out to a rural farm for $1,000? No. This tells me the author did not do her research, because bull fucking shit. That kind of out call, $5,000. How old is this guy? He's the oldest of the three, so like probably like 30. Who wrote this? J.R. Ward. Real name, I believe, Jessica Bird. When he eased back again, a sudden wave of dizziness came over him, testament that more of the alcohol was pumping into his system. Like all drunks, however, he knew that that was a temporary glitch that would self-regulate, especially given all that he had to focus on. Even with his fuzzy vision, even with the dimness, even being drunk off his ass, he was in awe. This one was so beautiful, almost too beautiful to touch. Oh, look at you, he whispered, reaching out to brush her cheek. Her eyes flared again, or at least he thought they did. Maybe he was just imagining things because of the way she drew in a quick breath. It was so hard to know, hard to track what was happening. Reality was going all wonky on him now, twisting around on itself until he wasn't sure how much the prostitute actually looked like Sutton, and how much he was just projecting onto her because he'd had a long because she ugh, because she had long dark hair and arching brows and a mouth that was Grace Kelly perfect. The woman's hair was down just as he'd asked it to be, and he brushed his hand over the waves until he felt the curve of her shoulder. You smell so good, just like I remembered. And then he was touching more of her, his fingertips traveling across her collarbone, over her diamond necklace, and down to the curves of her décolletage. In response, she began to breathe harder, the pump of her lungs bringing her breasts close to his palm. I love the dress, he murmured. Again, why is this woman playing along with this? Why hasn't she, like, said literally anything? The gown was just Sutton's style, beautifully put together, tailored to the body that filled it out, made from chiffon that was the gray of a dove. Sitting forward, he brought his meager chest to her spectacular one and reached around to find the carefully hidden zipper. Is she planning to, like, stop him at any point? As he drew the thing downward, the sound of the unfastening seemed so very loud. He could have sworn she gasped as if he had shocked her. And that was, oh, so perfect. Exactly what Sutton would have done. Dude, start putting one and one together here. At least with the way he was now. I wish I had done this before, he said in a voice that cracked. My body was once something worth seeing. I should have. I should have tried to have you before, but I was too much of a coward. I was an arrogant coward. But the truth was, I could have withstood anything except you turning me down. Okay, so they never were a thing. He's just been crushing on her forever and never made a move. And now he's pining over her because he thinks she would never have him because the whole Beauty and the Beast thing. He cut her off by putting his mouth against hers. Oh, she was good. As good as he'd imagined she would be. The slick feel of his tongue slipping into her and the way she moaned like she'd been waiting a lifetime for this, making him forget what he had become. That gown melted away, falling from her body as if it were in on the gig, as if it were perhaps getting a kickback for making the session happen faster. And he took advantage of the skin that now showed, kissing his way down to her perfect breasts, suckling on her nipples, getting greedy fast. Wow, he's just going right for it, and she's not. Seriously, you're flipped out at a charity thing. She's not drunk. You panic drive to guy that I'm guessing she had a mutual crush on. Just they were both too chicken shit to ever say anything or do anything about it. And he tells you not to say a word, to get on your knees, and then starts undressing you and sucking on your tits, and you're not saying a word. Nobody is like this. Oh, wait, I forgot my. We haven't needed it yet, but I have the tally sheet. Hey. Uh, Bless the poor woman's heart, she managed to fake things so well. Her hands threading into his hair just as he wanted them to, her grip bringing him closer to her, even though he couldn't possibly be that couldn't possibly be what the prostitute actually wanted. He tried not to be rough with her, but God, he was so hungry all of a sudden. Okay, you need to cover. You need to figure it out. Yes, we do, Beefeater name brand. Yeah. Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Thank you, Sarah. And any attendant kitties, because I know they like to feel included. Brand names. Which if this much room, I already added more paper and I have this much room left for brand names and we're only like halfway through the book. Oh. Deacon was first. Okay. This reads like Tina Belcher. I don't know who that is. This does sound like it could be a therapy journal entry. Like, last night I had a dream about. Get into my lap, he groaned. You're going to have to get into my lap. It was the only way he could have sex, especially as he didn't want to subject either of them to the embarrassment of having to help him off the floor after it was over. Are you sure? She said roughly. Edward, I have to have you. I've waited too long. I almost died. I need this. The problem is she thinks it's real. Bob's Burgers? I don't know what that is. Is that like a fast food place in the States? Sorry. There was a heartbeat's worth of pause, then she moved with admirable quickness, rising from the floor, kicking the gown free, revealing, sweet Jesus, she had a thong on and nothing else. No stockings, no garters. Rather than wasting time to take the thing off, she pushed to the side as he fumbled with the belt that kept his pants from falling off his jutting hip bones. Oh, it's a cartoon? Okay, I don't know it. It's kind of like The Simpsons? Okay. And take it there's a character that's a writer? In spite of how the rest of him had faded away, his cock was still as hard and long and thick as ever, because of course! We hit the trifecta. Hard, thick, and long. Why is it every guy in these books? Why? Why do they all have to be hung like Hercules? Come on. That's just a reality. Also, it assumes that every woman wants long and thick when it comes to penis, and that's just not true. Yeah, right? This is true. Not every woman wants that. And he was oddly grateful to that organ for being the only thing that wasn't completely humiliating about this for him. This guy needs so much fucking therapy. Shoving his arms into the chair, he pushed himself even further forward, and she pretzeled herself, mounting him with enviable coordination. His arousal penetrated her deeply, and the tight, hot hold she brought with him made him orgasm immediately. We haven't again another romance book trope. Guy has no stamina. But that was not the amazing thing. Apparently, the feel of him by some miracle did the same for her. This is not how women work. As she called out his name, she seemed to find her own release as well. This is when the hooker's going to knock on the door, right? Either that or she still missed her calling and should have been an Oscar caliber actress. Before Edward knew what he was doing, he began to move. It was weak and rather pathetic, but she followed his lead. That first release soon getting eclipsed by an even greater orgasm for both of them. This is not how anything works. Yes, it said pretzel or something. I assume she means that she is facing him, her butt is in his lap, and her legs are wrapped around his back. Yeah, it really does. And it doesn't sound like a good position for penetration either. Shuddering, rocking, straining, she held on to him for dear life, her hair getting into his face, her breasts pressing into him, her body taking him on a ride like nothing he ever had. Countdown to The sex seemed to go on forever, and when it finally finished, after a third orgasm for him, he collapsed back into the chair and panted. I'm going to need you again. Oh, Edward. Tell Beau next week, same time, same day. What? He let his head loll to the side. Money's over there. Only you. I want only you again. God, if you're this woman, what are you thinking when he's like, is she gonna figure it out? Like, is she gonna tell him if she figures it out? Abruptly, probably because he'd exerted himself more in the last 20 minutes than he had over the previous 12 months, he began to feel faint, and indeed it seemed appropriate to pass out and let the prostitute leave on her own. He could keep the fantasy going more easily that way. "Thousand by the door," he mumbled. "Take it. Tip will come." Edward meant to say tip will come later, I'll have someone drop it off, or something to that effect. But consciousness became a luxury he could no longer afford, and he gave himself up to the oblivion, once again thinking only of Sutton Smythe. Sutton stumbled out of Edward's cottage. Her shoes were off and dangling from their straps. Unlike her earlier trip through the grass and around the museum building, the porch boards and then the cobblestone path hurt. It wasn't as though she cared. As she bolted for the Mercedes, she was a mass of contradictions, her brain a jammed up mess and her body all loosey goosey. He thought she was a prostitute? But why else had he been talking about money and some guy named Beau? Next week? Oh god, they'd had sex. Yeah. I'm thinking the 20 minutes is a lie too. But he's very, very drunk, so maybe he doesn't have that much of a sense of time right now. How had they done that? How had she let, oh dear lord, his poor face, his body, around and around the thoughts spun in her head until, as if by centrifugal force, everything weeded out except for the fact that Edward was not at all as he had once been. His handsome looks were gone, the scars on his cheek and across the bridge of his nose and forehead making it virtually impossible to reconstruct by memory the perfection that had once been there. She'd been aware he'd been treated badly. Girl, adjust your language. Is this a knockoff Pretty Woman? No. No, it's just a mistaken identity. Ugh. Newspapers and television reports, her only source of information because he'd refused to see anyone, had detailed the lengths of his hospital and rehabilitation stays, and that kind of extensive treatment didn't happen without tragically good reason. But seeing him in person had been a total shock. He'd been a polo player before the abduction, an event jumper, a runner, a basketball, tennis, and squash player, a swimmer, and because Edward had been the golden boy not just in business but in every other aspect of his life, he'd excelled at all of them. I wish I'd done this before. My body was once something worth seeing. Sutton struggled to open her car's driver's side door, her hands slipping off over and over again like she'd had some kind of stroke and could no longer grip things properly. And when she was finally able to get herself into the car, she ran out of energy and just collapsed into the seat. I should have tried to have you before, but I was too much of a coward. I was an arrogant coward, but I could have withstood anything except you turning me down. What had he been saying? And who had he thought he was saying it to? Her heart broke with the idea that he was in love with someone like that. He'd been so drunk, to the point where right before she'd bolted, she checked to make sure his heart was still beating and he was breathing. Because, yes, the idea she might have killed him because they'd. Dear Lord, how is it possible that after years of thinking about it, they'd actually had sex, but only because he thought she was a whore he'd ordered from somewhere? Well, you could have tried the talking thing. And no, they hadn't used protection. Fabulous. This was veering off the beaten path. This veering off the beaten path thing tonight was just all around wonderful. Especially because even though he'd been drunk, and even though she'd been a head case, and in spite of the physical condition he'd been in, the sex had been incredible, because of course it is, because it's a book. Maybe it was because it had been a one-time only, stars-aligned kind of event. Yeah, right. Yeah, we really think she's not coming back here. Uh-huh. But whatever the reasons, he had just blown away the few men she had been with, and she feared scorched the earth for anybody else. I always love this concept that you have one time that is so good it ruins sex with other men. Sounds like a bunch of guys that are drunk in a bar bragging about bullshit that never happened. Like the way every guy in high school will lie and say that they've had sex when, they haven't even seen a girl topless yet. So, Dale, if you're still listening, I'm sure you never did anything like that in school, right? Reaching forward, she pushed the start-stop button, and as the car's engine let out a purr, the headlights flared and made her panic. There were other people on the grounds. Had to be. The last thing she wanted was to get caught. She was going to need to figure out how to deal with this, and having the gossip mill get churning was not going to be part of her coping strategy. Thank you very much. At that very moment, another car came down the alley of trees, and instead of heading for one of the barns or an outbuilding, it pulled right up next to her. Yep, here we go. The woman who got out was tall, brunette, and dressed in a full-length evening gown. She frowned as she looked at the Mercedes, then came over. Please don't tell me I'm having hiccups. Sutton put her window down because what else was she supposed to do? Excuse me. At the same time, she also started reaching for the right lever button, whatever, to get the sedan into reverse. I thought I was on the schedule for tonight, the woman asked pleasantly enough. I, uh, as Sutton stammered, a flush ran through her. Uh, are you one of the new girls Bo was talking about? I'm Delia. Sutton shook what was offered. How do you do? Oh, you sound so posh, the woman smiled. So, did you take care of him? Yeah. It's okay if you did. Sometimes these things happen, and I've got 2 other calls tonight. She reached up and yanked what turned out to be a wig off her head. At least I can be free of this. Is he okay? I'm sorry? The woman rubbed at her cropped blonde hair as she nodded in the direction of the cottage. Him. We all look after him. The poor guy. Poe won't tell us who he is, but he must be someone important. He's always so generous, and he treats us all real good. Such a sad case, really. Yes, it is very sad. Well, I'll head out. You want me to let Bo know we're all set? Uh, I'll take care of next week then. No, Sutton heard herself say. He told me. The man said he wanted me again. Oh, okay, no problem. I'll pass the word along. Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe this was some kind of bizarre fever dream. As Sutton resumed her search for the right lever, the prostitute leaned back down. Are you looking for reverse? Yes, I am. It's that one right there. Move it up for reverse. All the way down is drive. If you push in the end for park. She doesn't even know how to drive her own. Okay. It is way too cliche that these rich women don't know how to fucking, like, drive their own fancy cars. Oh, and we get a mark for Mercedes and fancy car. Okay, pen work. Here we go. Thank you. It's hard. One of my regulars has this exact car. It's a real beauty. Drive safe. Making a non-committal noise, Sutton backed her way around carefully, very aware that the other woman was standing oh so close with that brunette wig in her hand. How creepy would it be to discover that somebody was hiring hookers to look like you? I'm not sure how I would handle that. Heading off to the main road, she decided this had to be the result of her having contracted the flu and taken to her bed. Any moment she was going to wake up. Really, she was. Holy shit, how did that all just happen? End of chapter. And since his name was said so many times and we're on the hour and need a stretch break, we're going to get a puppy. Bo! Come here, little puppy. Come here, good boy. See, he's sleeping on the couch going, really? You want me to move? But that requires moving. Nemo curled up. I'll go get him. Devil's advocate. She has so many cars and the fancy ones are all unique, so she got flustered. This is possible. And yeah, it would be very fucking disturbing. You know, it's like walking into someone's house and they have like a poster of you on the wall or something like that. That would be equally creepy. I'm gonna get a puppy. Oh, come here. Come here, little boy. Come on, little puppy. I know, you're pretending to be asleep. And sometimes you think you're in trouble when I call you. There you are. Come here. Come here. Yeah, rub my belly. Yeah, that's what I thought. Rub my belly. Rub my belly, rub my belly, rub my belly. Rub my belly. All right, come on. Come here. Come on, you can do it. Come on. Yes, come with mommy. That's a good boy. Come here. Come here, you little puppy. There you are. There's my good boy, all ready and waiting. He's doing the, come on, sit down so you can hold me. Let me put my headset on. Then I'll hold you. All right, you ready? Yeah, there we are. There's a puppy. See, this is the good Bo. This is the Bo that we like. Hello, yes. Yes, and you can lick because I don't have makeup on. Not the eyes, not the lips. Okay, we may need to revisit this. He licked in my mouth. Stop snipping for food. Oh, there is a granola bar beside me. You can't have that. It has chocolate. I'm sorry, but it's not good for you. I wish you'd remember the time he ate half a chocolate cookie out of the garbage and then puked his guts out. Yeah, you didn't feel very good. You were not a happy doggy. But of course, he doesn't put those two things together. No, you don't. You don't put that together, because why should you? I found food that tasted oh so good. And then, completely unrelated to that, I got very sick. Right? Yeah. He acts like he doesn't constantly have a full bowl of kibble, which he does, but he considers his kibble like substandard food. Yes, the garbage can's always your first choice. This is why Mummy has to put the garbage up on the counter so you can't get into it. Okay, that sounds vomit-inducing. Like I don't like eggs or mayo like to begin with, so I wouldn't eat it anyway, but that sounds especially gross. Oh, and now we're doing the I've melted on you and you can't put me down. It was for a wedding? I'm firing the caterer. I would leave them such a nasty review. Who the fuck thinks this is a good idea? Like, I legit want to know. Who thinks fucking chocolate deviled fucking eggs is a good fucking idea? Chocolate good, yes, and as a at the moment very hormonal female, believe me, I have eaten more than my share to the point where I'm like, I gotta set a fucking limit on the treats, because when the hormones kick in and I'm having those 2-3 days of the only thing I want in the world is that cake from Matilda, I am eating way too much sugar. And other than those few days, I generally keep things sugar free. I don't keep cookies or sweets or ice cream or any of that shit in the house, except for those 3 days. I always give in to something and then just like eat the whole box, because that's the only way to make the craving stop. Yeah, I'm with Dale. I'm wondering this too. How was the chocolate applied to the deviled eggs? Like, was it like drizzled on top? Were they dipped in it? Like, how did this happen? Did they mix cocoa powder in the mayo? Mix the chocolate with the yolks? So yeah, it's cocoa powder then. It would have been. Like, I've used cocoa powder to make macaroons and chocolate Rice Krispie squares. Chocolate Rice Krispie squares are the bomb. And you can stick them in the freezer forever and they're fine. Yeah, I'm with Sethale. That's just no. No, 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 no. Yeah, because that's really gross. Really, really, really gross. It is very upsetting. I know, I stopped petting you. Notice the head comes up when I stop petting him? Okay. Thank you for coming over and being a puppy. And letting us all enjoy your puppiness. Yes, you're a good boy. Okay, come here, I'll rub your belly a little bit. Okay, you get a little bit of belly. Little bit of belly. Yes, you get a little bit of belly. Rub, rub, rub. Yes, you're so happy. I love you too. Yes, I'm getting I love you blinks. Yes, I love you too, and your belly. You're such a good baby. Yes, you are. You're so good. You're so good. Yes. Look at these floppy ears. You're so cute. You're so cute. Yes. You're just so adorable, aren't you? Yes, you are. He was looking at me funny when I was looking at cell phone models. I found a cell phone model that I actually want. Here's the problem. Two things. One, the version that I want is the international version because it has twice the storage for the same price. Two, because it came out in 2024, which was not that fucking long ago, I remind the internet, I can't find it anywhere, at least not here. This is one of those times I wish I had somebody to drive me to America right now because I know that in America I could walk into any goddamn cell phone store and they'd have one. It'd be in a back room somewhere, but they'd have one and it'd probably be half the price that I've been seeing it at, which the price I'll deal with when I actually find one. But it sucks that I found a phone that will actually work for me and that, the autistic part of my brain is satisfied with and the tech geek part of my brain is satisfied with and the gamer girl part of my brain is satisfied with and the part that has to be ready for everything and have massive storage is satisfied with. Do you have any idea how rare it is that all four of those parts of me are satisfied at the same fucking time? And I can't find it. I don't even know anyone in the States I could have buy it for me and send it to me because I used to know 2-3 people because I frequently did that. This is before online shopping was a thing. It wasn't a thing back then. So I would have people buy things in the States. I would PayPal them the money and then they would buy it and mail it to me a couple of times for things that weren't available here, which that's not usually a problem anymore. But in this case, it is, not because it's not available, but because it's 18 months old. And in technology time, apparently that's an eon. I don't want a phone from this year. I don't ever want electronics from the same year because they haven't been tested yet. And also, they're overpriced as fuck. This is why I don't own a Switch 2. I want one now. I didn't before because it wasn't worth it. It's still barely worth it, but it's not worth it at $750. Like, Nintendo they're really pricing themselves out of the market because by now, especially given how bad the sales have been, the price should have dropped down at least a couple $100, but they are standing their ground and they have not lowered it despite consumer demand, and even retailers are telling them to lower the price and they won't do it, and it's getting really dumb and really contentious. But it does actually have a title worth buying now. By all accounts, the Yoshi game looks really good, and I do want to play it, but of course it's only available on the Switch 2 to make you buy the thing. Sorry, but spending nearly $800 on a system for one non-main series game is just not worth it. They made two critical errors with releasing the Switch 2. One, it was overpriced when they released it by far. It should have been maximum $500, $550 for just the console. Two, they released it without a title. How do you launch a new console with no main series title? That's catastrophically stupid. Look at every other console they've ever launched. What did it launch with? 9 out of 10, they launched it with a Mario main series game, some of the best, N64, Mario 64. But this one, yeah, we launched it with Mario Kart World that sucked and that promised all these fabulous online features, and yet at the time of release up till now, it's been a year, none of those features are available yet. Because they even admitted the game was only half finished when they released it. So they're like, oh, we'll have DLC, we'll have updates, we'll eventually all the wireless stuff that we promoted the shit out of that was the only reason people bought the game. Eventually that stuff will happen because you know what they didn't do? They didn't, when they released it, say, oh, by the way, none of the stuff that we hyped the shit out of actually works. You didn't find that out until after you bought it. So that is sleazy A fucking F because the game doesn't do 90% of what people wanted it to do. It still doesn't. They still have not. It's been a year. They haven't updated it. The online features still do not work. So if I was somebody who bought a Switch 2 for that, I'd be suing them. Like, it's false advertising. It's fraud. Do I think Nintendo will ever let the profit margin drop? When they're about a month from filing from bankruptcy, maybe. The problem is they have too much power, too much money, and too much legacy in the industry. It's like in the 80s when they were the only ones that made the cartridges that games had to go on. So they forced indie games and smaller game companies to sell the titles to them because they were the only ones that could manufacture the cartridges because they had like patents on them. They've always been sleazy and shady, and they like their money. I was talking to someone about this just the other day because they were thinking of getting one, so we were talking about it. Yes, and Japanese law does not. The reason that they get away with so much shady shit is they don't respect US or Canadian laws or European laws even, because that's why in Japan, you can buy like every Xbox or PlayStation game for Nintendo, because in Japan, they will make copies of them and just ignore the fact that other companies hold the patents and it's blatantly illegal for them to do that because no one's going to enforce it on them. But they can't sell it outside Japan because then they would be held accountable. But in Japan, yeah, you can get anything. I still have my first Switch as well, but I can see the writing on the wall. It's starting to be unsupported. They are starting to only release, even for games that came out on the Switch, they're starting to only release the updates for them for the Switch 2 model, not for the original Switch. That's how they're ultimately going to force people to switch over. That's what's going to get me in the end, because I have a Switch and I play this several hours a day. I have games on here I've played for years that are still currently active and getting updated. And what's going to happen is eventually they're going to stop putting the updates on the Switch and only put them on Switch 2 to force people to buy one. And that's what's going to fuck me over eventually, probably by the end of the year. But I sure as hell don't have the money to buy one. The cartridge was made by the U.S. Gerald Jerry Lawson. Really? But yeah, Nintendo need a good smack upside the head. Because, and what it was is you can pinpoint on a timeline exactly when the company turned into a piece of shit, because they used to be very respectful of their customers and their fan base. But as soon as Miyamoto left and the next generation took over, they're a bunch of disrespectful, greedy, profit-hungry corporate bastards. You know, they have no respect for the fans. They're blatantly disrespectful to their customers. That's why everything is overpriced. That's why the quality has gone down. You know, Miyamoto would never in a million years have released a half-finished game. Ever. Ever, ever. So yeah, the company's taken a real downturn the last 15 or so years. You have a Steam Deck? Yeah, I saw about the new Steam machine. $1,200. Ouch. Yeah, Steam is pretty good about trying to improve things. Like, I have Steam on my PC. I have some games on there. Not a lot. I don't play it as much as I should. And I like, the amount of variety they have. I'm looking forward to Trivia Murder Party 3, which should be out relatively soon, within the next couple of months. So there's that to look forward to. Oh, God, I need a shower. Yes, that's what it's for. Oh, that's the one thing that sucks about in the summer. Like, you shower in the morning, and then by the evening, you're all sweaty and sticky, and it's like, did I shower today? Oh, yeah, I did. Your son has a Steam Deck? Oh, I'm jealous. Yeah, if he wants the new Steam machine, you better tell him to get a job. I was waiting to order a Steam controller since I missed it the first go-around. think we will get Half-Life 3? Is that one of those games that's been stalled forever? I know GTA 6 finally has a release date and it's taken pre-orders after, what, like 5 years? I don't know. I'm waiting for the Stardew Valley sequel that, should be out sometime in the next decade. Chapter 28. The day of the Derby dawned bright and clear. Oh, we finally got to the party. 248 pages in. We're finally getting to the party that's been talked since literally page 1. Page 1 was literally the invitation to this party. We're finally there. The day of the Derby dawned bright and clear. Although as Lizzie drove into work, there could have been a thunder and lightning, torrential flooding, and hurricane winds, and she would still have smiled the entire ride to Charlemont. Oh yes, women are so happy after getting laid, because that's not cliche as fuck. Stardew Valley is your comfy game that had me thinking I could garden. Hey, Deacon, I think that game. I think Stardew Valley has multiplayer. Does it? If it does, DM me your friend code for the Switch. We'll get up to no good together. Yeah, DM me your friend code. I have houses too. I didn't know what they were for, but they were like $100, so I bought one because I thought the cabin was originally for Linus, and I was all disappointed when I invited him to live with me, and he said no. And I know if you're not married, you can get Corbus to live with you, but you can't do it if you're married, which sucks. And it's like, why can't he just live on my property? Like, I have so much room, and I have a cabin. I don't know. I've been thinking of starting a second file because I'm still on my first one, and trying to marry the witch on the second one. You're married to the doctor. That I almost went for him. I went for why am I blanking? Elliot. I went for Elliot this go round. Though in past like Harvest Moon Story of Season games, I always marry the doctor character, if there is one. If there's not, I usually marry a female character. Oh yeah, my other one I was also thinking of going for the girl that runs the Oasis shop. I forget her name right now. Or Abigail. Abigail's pretty cool too. I heard if you marry Ken, he like or not Ken or Shane. I think Shane. He like turns into a drunk. I don't know. I kind of want to like play through all the marriages just to see all the dialogue and what happens because they do keep the stories interesting. It's not like their children never grow up. She and Lane had played rock, paper, scissors to decide who went in first, and in spite of the fact he had won 3 times in a row, they decided she should leave before him. 1, she had a lot to do, and 2, he had been in no hurry to go anywhere. Every time she blinked, she saw him lying back in her sheets, his naked chest on display, and his very naked lower body hidden underneath. Does that mean he had a heart-on she could see? Yes. She had never felt so rested after having had so little to no sleep all night long. Wow, they had sex all night long. So Viagra was involved? Passing by the main entrance to Easterly, she had to shake her head. You never knew where you were going to end up, did you? So much for the whole friends only thing. Coming around to the staff road, she promptly had to hit her brakes and join the long line of delivery trucks and cars. She was relieved to see so many of the former in light of the problem they'd had with the rental company, but nervous about how Lane and his family would pay for all the additional help considering the latter. When she finally got to the parking lot, she had to squeeze the Yaris into a spot in the back. There were about 100 waiters and waitresses coming to the staff party, and their vehicles all had to go somewhere. In another hour, the lower road was going to be lined with pickup trucks and motorbikes and 12 kinds of sedans. Getting out, she hooked up with the parade of people trooping to the house on the back path. Nobody was saying anything, and that was fine with her. In her head, she was working on her punch list and prioritizing the things she wanted to do before the floodgates opened, and over 600 of the most important people in town for the races came through Easterly's front door. God, I would hate this. Now, the other 5-minute man, she wasn't screwing the guy who thought she was a hooker. She was screwing the guy who spent the last 2 years crashing on someone's couch and playing poker, and was also a less than 5-minute man. Yeah, there's no way either of these guys lasts all night. No way. That's why it's on my list. Where did I put it? Damn it, I moved the list. Fuck. Starting with the next book, I'm keeping a perpetual list for all future books that we read in book club of the things that appear in every bad, trashy, cheap, lowbrow romance erotica book, because there are some things that just find their way into all of them. And I'm grateful I know the list of the super cliche things, because then I can avoid writing it in my own story. Or at least desperately try. Though I am being forced to sound a little more trite and cliche than I would like in a sex scene, because after banging my head against a wall for like 6 weeks to try to not sound like that and asking many, many people how to sound like that without sounding like that, the answer is sometimes you just have to sound like that. Intimate, seductive language is always going to sound a little corny. Number 1 on her list, Greta. She had to somehow fix things with Greta because they were going to have to work as a team in order to survive the next 4 hours. As she saw the conservatory looming on the far side of the garden, she braced herself. Her partner had to be in there already, was no doubt picking over all the bouquets, making sure that not a single wilted petal or leaf marred the perfect presentation before they were taken out to the tables. She'd probably been there since 6:45, just as Lizzie should have been, and would have been except for the whole laying in her bed thing. I'm a grown woman, she told herself. I say who, I say when, I say, great, she was quoting Pretty Woman. Yep. I took that as my motto when I was like 11 when I saw that movie. It works too. I say who, I say when, I say how much. It is a good business model for a hooker. The problem was, if her business partner asked her why she was late, things were going to go from really bad to totally worse. How about you lie and say you had a flat tire? She was a horrible liar. Oh, there we go. Doesn't matter, you still try. And all the tomato red that was going to hit her face before she could stutter out a non-answer was going to give her away like a billboard. I spent all night boning Lane Baldwin. Or whatever German phrase came close to that. Squaring her shoulders, Lizzie hiked her bag up a little higher on her shoulder and marched over to the double doors. As she opened them and stepped into the fragrant, thick air of the conservatory, she decided to lead with, "You're a grown woman," Greta blurted out as she looked up from a bouquet. "And I'm sorry. I had no right to. You're a grown woman and you're entitled to make your own decisions. I'm really sorry." Wow. Yeah, this is very inconsistent. It's just that it's jumping all over the place. Like, it just keeps cutting back and forth between the siblings who are not really connected to each other, so there's no really center to it. I don't know if it has a movie or not. I think there's one in progress, but nothing is confirmed. And don't forget that, I forget when, but I think it's within the next month, there's a new E.L. James book coming out. that we will read after this series, because I'm not interrupting the middle of a series to read a completely different book. So it will wait until we've read all 3 of these. But we will read it, and it's about a teenage girl falling in love with a ghost, and sounds like it ripped off the TNG episode Sub Rosa in entirety. I really do have to look and see when that actually comes out, because I forget. But I know it's soon. Lizzie released her breath on a oneer. I'm sorry, too. Greta pushed her tortoiseshell glasses higher on her nose. What for? You didn't do anything wrong. I just... Excuse me. Look, I'm 10 years older than you. So it's not... No, freaking hiccups. Just that I have more wrinkles on my face or more wear and tear on my body. I feel like I have to take care of you. You haven't asked me to, and you probably don't need it. God damn it. And that's how it is. Greta, really, you don't have to apologize. Oh, we're both under a lot of stress. And besides, I heard he served her with divorce papers yesterday. Oh, of course, everyone's gonna know. Word travels fast. She put her bag down. How did you find out? One of the maids saw her throw the papers at the deputy. Greta shook her head. So classy. I told him not to do it because of me. Well, whatever his reasoning, he followed through on it. Greta resumed working her way down the tables. Just promise me something. Watch out for him. This family, they've got a history of treating people as disposable, and that never goes well for the toy of the moment. She's entirely correct. Lizzie put her hands on her hips and stared down at her work boots, which she put on in front of Lane, giving him a show that he'd been very vocal about enjoying. Ouch, she thought. Her chest really hurt at the very salient reminder that with them resuming their physical relationship, things had changed. Totally. And not at all. I just don't want to see you hurt like that again. Greta cleared the emotion out of her voice. Now, let's get to work. He's not like his family. He isn't. Yeah, he is. Threw you away once before, keep that in mind. Greta paused and stared out at the garden. After a moment, she shook her head. Lizzie, it's in his blood. He's not going to be able to help it. I'm on Greta's side this time. When Lane got back to Easterly, he parked his Porsche off to the side. Porsche. In the shadows of the paved lane that led around to the back garages. I'm home now, he said into his phone. You want me to come up and re-explain the plan? His sister took a while to answer, and he could just picture Jin shaking her head as she pushed her hair over her shoulder. No, I think you've covered everything, she intoned. He repositioned his UFC baseball cap on his head and stared up at the sky so high above. He put the top down as he left Lizzie's, and the roar of the wind as he sped up home had given him the illusion of freedom he'd been looking for. God, Lizzie. The only reason he was going to get through today in even halfway decent shape was because of the night he'd spent with her. He'd made love to her for hours. And then as they'd slept, he'd stared up at the ceiling of hers and figured out step by step how he needed to proceed. Oh, great. So he's done a ton of planning, hasn't talked to her about anything, but totally thinks he's got it all figured out. Let's see how that goes for him. Are you going to talk to him today? Chin asked him roughly. For once, the him was not Edward. I want to. Elaine crowned his molars, but not yet. I'm not saying one thing to father until we know the scope of all of it. If I have if I have that conversation before I can prove anything, he's just going to slash and burn whatever he hasn't shredded already. Okay, so at least they're acknowledging that somebody needs to speak to the father if they can. So when will you get with him? He frowned. Jin, you say nothing. Are we clear? Do not say one goddamn word, especially to father. I hate him. Then take the long view. If you want him to get what's coming, you need to let him hang himself. Do you understand what I'm saying? You confront him, you're actually helping him. I'm going to take care of this, but there's a process, Jin. Do you hear me? After a moment, there was a soft chuckle. You sound like Edward used to. For a split second, he felt a bolt of high-octane pride. Then again, every one of them had always looked up to Edward. That was the nicest thing you've ever said to me, he muttered gruffly. Oh, and don't forget, there is a fourth sibling that's been mentioned a few times, but I'm thinking either they've, completely separated themselves from the family for a long time, or they're dead. I mean it. So, radio silence today, Jin, and I'll let you know how we're progressing. Okay, all right. Good girl. I love you. I'm going to take care of us. All of us. I love you too, Lane. Lane ended the connection and kept watching the clouds. Off in the distance, he could hear the patter of the talk, and as he leveled his head, he sat down by the garage. He saw down by the garage a vast group of uniformed waiters clustered around Reginald, the lot of them getting their marching orders. Chin better keep her mouth shut, he thought. William Baldwin was already going to be twitchy from Rosalinda's death. If Lane, or God forbid Jin, with the likes of her mouth, came at him, he would hide things, disappear records, destroy details, assuming anything like that was left. Lane lolled his head to the side so that he stared at Easterly. How much of this would be left, he wondered. God, he never would have imagined that thought ever going through his mind. One thing was clear. William Baldwin's reign was about to come to an end. Whether it was payback for what the man had done to Edward for all those years, or the fact that his mother had been disrespected, or the reality, uh, that it was likely Rosalinda had killed herself because of him. Okay, so we're back to it with suicide. We keep going back and forth on that. Funny stuff with his own wife was the least of what was getting him vindictive. Had Chantal really gone for his father and gotten herself pregnant? Yeah, why not? It's exactly what somebody in her position who is conniving and scheming would do. It makes perfect sense. Unbelievable. Made him think he should give his lawyer a little heads up. A woman capable of that could pull anything out of her derby hat. Wait, hadn't Samuel T. said that adultery could be used to reduce alimony? Duh. Sir, would you like me to park this car? Lane glanced at the uniformed Parker who'd walked over. As opposed to the crew of 50 down by the bottom of the hill, there was only one guy stationed up here, and his sole purpose was to handle the University of Charlemont's men's basketball coach's car. That's a lot of words to describe a fucking car. Oh, and route the presidents and various governors of cars and SUVs around. But the coach's sedan was primary and most important priority. Why? No thanks. He took off the baseball cap and rubbed his hair. I'm gonna leave. Oh, Mr. Baldwin, I didn't know it was you. Why would you? Lane got out and offered his palm. Thanks for helping us today. The young kid stared at the hand he'd been offered for a moment, and then he moved in slowly like he didn't want to mess things up or look like an idiot. Sir, thank you, sir. Yeah, that's what you get from a 17-year-old that's going, don't, and the only thing in their head is going, don't fuck up, don't fuck up, don't fuck up, don't fuck up, don't fuck up. Yeah. Lane clapped the Parker on the shoulder. I'm just going to leave her here, okay? I'm not sure whether I'm going to the track or not. Yes, sir. She sure is pretty. Yeah, she is. As soon as Lane stepped through the front door, that English butler came forward with a stern expression on his face, as if he'd had to turn a number of people away already. That act dropped immediately when he saw who it was. Sir, how are you? Well enough. I have a request. How may I serve you? I need a suit. I took the liberty of ordering you up a seersucker blue with a white shirt, French collar and cuffs, and a pink bow tie with a pocket square. It was sent over late yesterday afternoon and pre-tailored to the specifications that Richardson's had on file. If you require further adjustments to the jacket or slacks, I shall send up a maid. There's also silk socks in pink and a pair of loafers. That sounds like a derby outfit, all right. That actually sounds nice. In spite of, I think the suits look a little dated. That sounds nice. I mean, they have their place. In the South at a derby, I could see them fitting. And also having a suit that is not unbelievably hot. That's one thing I just like. The lawyers here all wear like three-piece suits and they're like usually wool blend or like synthetic. And in the summer, I'm like, that has got to be unbearably hot. So yeah, having a suit like made out of like linen or anything lighter, good idea. And what do you know? That efficient act might be more than an illusion. Thank you so much. Although he didn't need it for the derby, and it was clear what the butler was thinking. I'll. The sound of the knocker pounding on the massive door made them both turn around. I shall take care of that, sir. Okay, I'm maybe about to sneeze. My nose is deciding. Shrugged and headed for the stairs. It was time for him to go through those dressers of his and throw on another change of clothes. French workers are to go to the rear entrance, the butler said in a haughty tone. You shall have to. I'm here to see William Baldwin. Lane froze as he recognized the voice. That is absolutely not possible. Mr. Baldwin is not receiving privately. Lane wheeled around and recoiled at the sight of the lean, dark-haired man in disheveled clothes and expensive leather boots. Mac? You remove yourself immediately from the... Cutting the butler off, Lane went over to the guy he'd grown up with. Mac, are you all right? Oh, great. Oh, great. We're getting another character. Great. I should have been writing this down. Okay, the answer to that was clearly no. Bradford's master distiller was looking worse for the wear. His normally sharp eyes hung with dark circles, a shading of stubble on his handsome as sin face. Your father's ruining this company, Mac blurted out in a series of slurs. Okay, so somebody else has figured out what is going on, or at least some part of it. I've got this, Lane said, dismissing the butler and taking the distiller under his arm. Come with me. He dragged the drunken man up the grand staircase and then Frog marched him down the hall into his bedroom. Inside, he led Mac over to the bed and set him down and turned away to shut the door. The thump of the dead weight hitting the floor resounded all around the room. With a curse, Lane doubled back and lifted the guy off the carpet and back up onto the mattress. Mac was babbling about the integrity of the bourbon making process, the importance of tradition, the lack of reserve that management was showing about the product, and how much of a cocksucker someone was. They were going to get nowhere like this. Time to wake up, Lane said as he got his old buddy on his feet again. Come on, big guy. Mac had been in the house countless times, but never pickled like this. Well, not since they transitioned into adulthood. He coupled that with Rosalinda's information and the fact that the distiller thought William was ruining the company. Another piece of the pie, Lane thought. Had to be. In the marble bathroom, he cranked on the shower and shoved Mac under the cold spray fully clothed. I have heard this is an effective technique for sobering somebody up. The howl was loud enough to shatter glass, but at least the shock got the guy to stand up on his own. Leaving him under the water, Lane went over to the petite French word I'm unfamiliar with, déjeuner closet. I don't know, some kind of closet. I really don't care. Something closet in the corner and got to work on the coffee pot, firing up the Keurig. Hey, Keurig gets product placement. Brand name drop. That's one thing I kind of wish I had bought one not when they first came out because they were too expensive, but I wish I'd bought one at some point because it would be cool to have one. You awake now, Mac? He asked as he brought a mug with the Bradford crest on it into the bath. Or should I add some ice to the mix? Mac glared through his wet hair and the spray. Should I punch you? Lane opened the shower glass door. How many of me are there? 2. The man accepted the mug with his wet hands, but that's down from 4.5. So it's working. Mac took a draw off the Java at the same time he reached around and juiced the H handle. Coffee's not bad. Would you know if it were paint thinner? Probably not. Lane pointed over his own shoulder. I'll be in there waiting. Robes on the back of the door. Do me a favor and don't come out naked. You couldn't handle it. Too right. Closing things up, Lane went into his closet, put on a fresh set of clothes, and then took a load off where Mac had failed to retain verticality. A little later, the master distiller made his grand robed appearance. The two of them had played basketball together for Charmont Country Day before they had gone to college, and the guy was as athletic as he'd always been, with no fat on him and the lanky build of a man who could play golf like a pro, run a marathon better than idiots 10 years younger than he was, and could still plow the lane on a b-ball court. Oh, and there was still nothing stupid in those unusual pale brown eyes. In a romance novel, Max Peepers would have been called whiskey or something like that, but it wasn't the uncommon color that had gotten all those women into the guy's bed. See, even the friends in romance books have to be Lotharios. Even the male friends have to be the guy that has a different woman every night of the week. Like, why? Pup, is there a puppy? Did I lose the puppy? I think I lost the puppy. I can't tell if he's under the puppy bed. He's so good at curling up, plus he has a blanket under there to hide him. Are you under there, puppy? This is like the only time I use the flashlight on my phone. Okay, there's a 50-50 chance that he's under there. Or he's back on the couch, I'm not sure. You know, he needs his quality couch time every day. I mean, if he doesn't stick his head down the corner into oblivion so he can sleep without hearing all the noise, who's going to? I was tucking him into bed the other night and he forgot to tuck his ears under the blanket, and it was so cute that just the tips of his ears were sticking out. He forgot what was where. No, there had been so much more to all of that. And people called him a loose man, Lane thought to himself. Edwin McAllen was worse. You got any more of this? Mac held up the mug. I think another gallon should do it. Help yourself. It's single serve in there. The guy glanced over at the open door to the little kitchen. Right. I make bourbon. I should be able to handle caffeine. On that note, let me do the duty again. I need some myself, and burning down the house this morning would be a buzzkill. The two of them ended up in the chaise lounges over by the windows like a pair of little old ladies. Little old ladies who both needed a shave. Talk to me. Lane plugged his elbows into his knees. What's going on at the company? Max shook his head. It's bad. I've been drunk for 2 days. That's not good. Like the ladder's ever stopped you before. We went on spring break together, remember? 6 times, which only 2 were actually on the school calendar. Max smiled, but the expression didn't last. Look, I've kept my thoughts about your father to myself, and you can stop that right now. You think I don't know what he's like? There was a long pause. I didn't know how high up the memo went. I thought maybe the stop by came from the suits, but I was wrong. I asked around. It was at your father's specific directive. I mean, the man runs a $1 billion business. Why does he care about. You need to back up. I have no clue what you're talking about. He's cutting me off. He's stopping production. Lane jerked forward. What? I got the memo the day before yesterday on my desk. I'm not allowed to buy any more corn. No corn, no mash, no more bourbon. He shrugged and took another hit off the coffee. I shut the stills down. For the first time since the move to Canada during Prohibition, I stopped it all. Sure, I've got some stills that are full, but I'm not doing a goddamn thing. Not until I speak with your father and find out what the hell he's thinking. I mean, is the board up to something? Are they selling us to China and want things to look better on paper by cutting expenses? And even that doesn't make any sense. They want us to delay for 6 months in the middle of this bourbon in the middle of the bourbon boom this country is experiencing. Lane stayed silent, all kinds of bad math happening in his brain. I wish Edward were around. Max shook his head. Edward would never have let this happen. Lane rubbed his aching head. Funny, he thought the same thing. Well, he's not. So if you don't mind lending me a set of dry clothes, and then go find that father of yours. To hell with your English bulldog downstairs. William Baldwin's gonna see me, Mac, and explain why. Mac. Lane looked at the man straight in the eye. Can I trust you? Of course he's gonna tell him after bitching at his sister. The distiller frowned. Of course you can. I need to get into the company's computer system. I need access to the financials, account details, annual reports, and I need you not to say a word to anyone. What are you? Why? Can you help me? Max set the mug down. As much as I'm able, yeah, sure. I'll meet you down by your car. Lane got to his feet. I'm driving. Help yourself to anything but the seersucker suit in the closet. Lane, what the hell's going on here? There's a possibility the cutoff isn't a business strategy. Mac frowned as if something had been spoken to him in a foreign language. I'm sorry, what? Lane looked out the window, down to the garden, to the tent. He pictured the people who would be under there in about 2 hours, all of them basking in the extended glory and wealth of the great Bradford family. If you ever say a word about this to anyone. Really, you're warning me about that. Lane glanced back at his friend. We may be out of money. Mac blinked. That's not possible. Yeah, he's got a point there. Again, it's extremely hard for families this wealthy and this much old money, 200 years, we've been told repeatedly, to actually go fully bankrupt. It is next to impossible. So there better be one hell of an explanation to what happened to hundreds of millions of dollars and multi-generational wealth. It would be like Walmart, the Walton family that owns the Walmart Corporation, going bankrupt when they make, $500 billion a year. Heading for the door, Lane said over his shoulder, We'll see. Remember, anything but the seersucker. End of chapter. Doing well on time tonight, but we have had puppy breaks. And since we're at the halfway point, I will remind everyone that we still have ducks, handcuffs, and Skittles drink mix available if you would like to help me pay for my new cell phone that I am being forced to get. I really don't want one, but I have to. Damn it, fuck. There was somebody I meant to ask today if they could look where they are, because they're in Europe, and see if he can buy the phone there for me, because it'll be cheaper, and it's the international model that I want anyway. But also, I need to look and see if I get it from another country, will it still work here? Because sometimes there's regional bullshit, and how they put region locks on things. Like one of the first things I ever figured out how to get around when DVD players were a thing was getting around the region coding on DVDs, because that was some epic bullshit that I was just not going to tolerate. Was being told that a movie that I couldn't hear but I bought from England, I had somebody send it to me because it was available over there, and then I put it in my Canadian DVD player and it went blah blah region code, I can't play this because it's a UK DVD. And I'm like, fuck that shit. I own the machine, I own the DVD. It's going to play it whether it likes it or not. And it took me about a day and a half, but I made it work. After that, I bought region-free DVD players. And of course, Skittles. I'm curious what flavor we'll fish out of there next, because I really am just gonna like blindly reach in and grab one, unless whoever sponsors it specifies. If you tell me to drink the orange, I will do it. Same with the painted ducks. Oh, I forgot to say, if you would like to sponsor Painted Duck, please specify. Phone should be fine as long as the Canadian SIM card is in it. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Because, yeah, like all I'm doing is taking the SIM card out of this phone and putting it in another phone. So it should just work. It should. My husband fried his phone. Oh no! While in Europe and bought one over there, it still works. That's good. I'm sorry he fried his phone. Oh, did he do the thing of not knowing that the power grid is different over there and you have to have a different adapter to plug your phone in to charge it, or else, yeah, it will fry the shit out of it? Did somebody forget to inform him of that? See, because I only know that because both my grandfather and my uncle used to travel for work extensively. And I remembered hearing them talk about how they had to get an adapter to charge their shaving kits because they used electric razors and they had to buy a special adapter to be able to charge it while in Europe so it wouldn't blow up. And as like a 5-year-old, I filed that away in my head. He had an adapter, but it was a cheap one. Oh, that's the worst. That's the absolute worst. It would just be making sure it has the same size. There are. Okay, I did not know there are sizes of SIM cards. Now I'm going to have to research that. And thank you for telling me before I spent, $200 to $300 on something I couldn't use. That's what I'm desperately trying to avoid. That's why I do need to keep researching. I have the phone model I want. I just need to make sure that, now I need to make sure that my SIM card fits in it and that it will work here with the company that I'm currently with. But yeah, coming up with money for the phone, that's priority number 2. Finding it available, priority number 1. Figuring out how in the hell I'm going to pay for it, priority number 2. Because, if it was here and I was buying it, I know I could get it on, a payment plan or something, so it wouldn't be a problem. And that was the original plan, was just, pay, $30 a month for, a year. Because that's pretty much the max that I'm willing to pay for a phone. That's actually more than I want to spend for a phone. I kind of object to paying for a phone at all, but if I am going to pay for one, I would like $200 to be my limit, but that's not reality. But I'm not willing to go much over it. Not for a phone. The first that, chapter 29. Ow. The first thing Edward did when he woke up was curse. Head was pounding. Body was in a patchwork of pain, nausea and stiffness. Brain was surprisingly crystal clear. When is he going to figure out? Do we think, here, just yes or no, chat, do we think it is within the rest of this book? Which is, let's see how many pages we have left. Okay, it has 424 pages. So we have about 184 pages left. We're on page 259. We have 184 pages left. Do we think within the remainder of this book he figures out that it was actually Sutton Smythe and not a hooker that he had sex with? Surprisingly crystal clear. And for once, that wasn't a bad thing. As he gathered up the strength to get to his feet, he let the images of that woman from the night before filter through his mind. He was still drunk, or pickled was more likely. What's the difference? So he was able to immerse himself totally in the memories of the feel, the smell, and the taste of her. The context might have been fake all round, something that had been scheduled and paid for, but the experience had been beautiful, he supposed was the word. He rearranged himself in his pants and grabbed his cane, heaved himself upwards and wobbled. The bathroom was about 17 miles away in that corner, and when he went to step forward, he kicked something across the floor. What the? Frowning, he leaned down, balancing on his cane so he did not become yet another thing upon the rug. It was an evening bag. Oh, she forgot a bag. He's going to find her ID in it. One of those boxy little silk wrap numbers with a rhinestone clasp on it. The woman had had it with her. He could vaguely recall thinking that it had been exactly the kind of thing Sutton would have used. Edward was careful as he made his way over and bent to pick the thing up. God only knew what was in it. Shuffling back to his armchair, he grabbed the phone off the side table, calling Beau's number. He glanced at the clock across the way. 7:30. The pimp would still be up, winding down from his night shift. Now he's going to find out. Hello, a rough voice said. Edward? The lady left something at my house last night. Her bag. Y'all sure about that? I'm sorry. Well, see, I was going to call you. Your girl, the one I sent, said someone else was already leaving when she got there. Edward frowned, thinking maybe he wasn't quite as with it as he thought. I'm sorry, he repeated, because that was the only thing that came to him. The girl I sent. She come to your place at 10 o'clock. There was another woman leaving, saying she'd taken care of you. Said she was coming back next week. I can't figure out which of my girls it was. Can you open the purse and tell me who? Yep, there we go. Total clinical sobriety came over Edward, sure as if someone had ice bucketed his head. But of course. Holding the phone between his ear and shoulder, he snapped open the bag's flap, and a black glossy lipstick tube jumped out, bouncing across the floorboards. There were 3 thin cards in there, and he bypassed the Centurion Amex and the health insurance ID and took out the driver's license. Sutton Smythe, with the correct address of her family's estate. Edward? Hello? Edward, are you all right there? He must have moaned or something. It wasn't one of your girls. No? No, it was the love of his life, the woman of his dreams, the one person he had vowed not to see again. An old friend of mine playing a trick on me. Oh, really? That's what we're calling it. Oh, that's funny, chuckled. Well, you still want someone next Friday? I'll get back to you, thanks. Edward ended the call and looked over his shoulder towards the sideboard door. Sure enough, the $1,000 was still there, right where he'd put it. Oh, fuck, he whispered, closing his eyes. Okay, so does he have to go to the derby thing? And she's gonna be there, of course. Like everyone is gonna be at this party. What's the odds that a fist fight breaks out? Well, she performed a trick. Yeah, that's for sure. After Jin hung up her phone, not with her brother, but with the person she had called after she'd spoken with Lane, she sat in front of her vanity with her head in her hands for the longest time. All she kept thinking of was that she wished she could go back to the night before last, when she'd been on the phone with that idiot from Samuel T.'s law firm stringing him along as other people did her hair and brought her diamonds. If only she hadn't taken the Phantom. If that had been the domino that had started all the others to fall. Then again, her father would still have been trying to maneuver her into marrying someone she hated, and she would still have been doing whatever he would still have been doing whatever he'd been doing with the money, and Rosalinda would still have killed herself. So, actually, no. Trying to escape through a reality rewind wouldn't really change anything. Was $3 million a lot of money? Are you fucking kidding? Why is this girl written so fucking badly? Like, I get rich bitch heiresses are gonna have a certain amount of cluelessness, and anyone who's born that rich and has lived in that bubble their whole lives, there's gonna be gaps in their knowledge of the world. I get it. But do we have to make her just the most clueless, stupid, twittering fool ever? I swear the people above me are playing lawn bowling or some shit, and it's getting annoying. But why does she just have to be perpetually stupid and clueless? Okay, fucking seriously, what the fuck? Like, this is like on the Simple Life when Paris Hilton, somebody tells her, is talking about Walmart, and she doesn't know what it is. And she's like, they sell there, like, walls? And that went, like, viral, and she got heavily made fun of for it. But I'm like, this is a girl who's never been in a Walmart. She doesn't know. Like, look at in the last, like, 3 weeks, all the people that have come to America and Canada for the World Cup. There's been thousands upon thousands of videos of mostly people from Europe, like, discovering weird things about North America or how different things are, especially trying American food. Weird American food. There's like a billion videos of people from other places that are here for the World Cup trying all the crazy ass American foods they've only heard about online or in cartoons. Or apparently taking a trip to Costco is a big thing. There's an Italian guy who went viral for saying that, like, walking around a Walmart was like walking around a museum or something because it's so huge and had, like, everything. American Walmarts are huge. It was one thing that was vastly different by comparison because we went to an American Walmart just to see how different it would be. And they're very different. The shelves are a lot higher, they're a lot wider. There's a lot more stuff in general. They sell a lot more like categories of things than they do here. Also, the aisles, like, where you walk in are like twice as wide as they are here, which was kind of odd, and we were kind of like, why? No, turning the corner and finding ourselves in an aisle full of guns was still the most concerning thing. That and the fact that the guns didn't seem to be particularly secured. Like, I absolutely could have taken one of the shotguns off the shelf and loaded it because there were boxes of shells just sitting there just openly on the shelf. They weren't even, like, under glass or locked up or anything. You just grab one, which is insane. On one level, of course it was. It was more than most people saw in a lifetime. Several lifetimes. 100 lifetimes. But was that a blip on the radar for their family? Or a crater? Or a Grand Canyon? So we're pretending she doesn't know how rich her own family is? Bullshit. Bull fucking shit. Because that is one thing every rich girl knows, is how rich is my family compared to yours, because it's the whole my dad's richer than your dad thing. I guarantee you every family at this level knows the worth of every other family at this level because it's a pissing match. And she's absolutely the type of person that would have lorded that over people by saying, well, my family's worth $500 million and your family's only worth $100 million, so I get to cut in line in front of you. That kind of thing. You probably didn't have firing pins in the display ones. I don't know. I hope so. I hope they were disabled in some way that I couldn't see. Do shotguns have firing pins? She couldn't. She couldn't imagine living a life of 9 to 5. Yes, they do. Okay, hopefully that's it. She couldn't fathom budgeting, saving, denying, and that was what happened to one whole branch of the Bradford clan. Back in the late 80s, before the stock market crashed, her mother's aunt's people had bought into a bunch of bad technology and leveraged their Bradford stock to do it. When those investments had proven to be nothing but a black hole, they'd ended up losing everything. It was a cautionary tale that had been whispered about by the adults when they'd assumed the children hadn't been listening. Yeah, never do that. If there are small kids in your house, just assume they're always listening and know everything, because they are and they do. I'm sure Sarah can remember a few times where she was like, how do you know that? And the answer is tiny child spying. Like, I remember being a kid, one of our favorite things to do was spy on the adults. That's how we learn things. Every cartridge-style gun has a firing pin. It's how the primer is struck and ignited. About the only thing with a firing pin will be... Only thing I'm guessing without a firing pin will be a black powder weapon, explosives, and rockets. I've seen a few black powder guns, like on TV, not in person. They strike me as being dangerous as fuck. I mean, not if you had like a replica that was built today. I'm sure that would be relatively safe. But like an original black powder gun, let's just say I would not be the person test firing it to see if it still works. Getting to her feet, she let her silk robe fall to the ground and left the thing where it lay. In her wardrobe room, she walked around and looked at the hundreds of thousands of dollars in fashion. The brilliant swaths and tiny whimsies hanging from crystal holders that had scented tufted pads so that the shoulders of the dresses and the blouses did not lose their shape. She chose a red dress. Red for blood, for fighting, for the Charmant Eagles. Sports team reference, check. I did write football here, but I'm not sure what the team actually is. I think somebody said it's basketball. Again, this is me having like a void where any sports knowledge should be. You can blow yourself up. Yeah, see? That's what it is. Not so much of putting too much powder in the gun, but a stray spark getting to the powder bag while you're filling the gun with it. Yeah, that would be bad. They do make a cool plume of smoke, though, if using black powder and not the more modern gunpowder. Yeah, I've seen that with the flash cameras, the box ones where you had to hold the thing with the full of flash powder like this on the thing. It does, the smoke is cool from those. I can give it that. And it makes a very satisfying bang when it goes off. I can give it that too. Because the sound is completely different to modern guns. Oy. And for once, she wore a complete set of underwear. What is she usually like, not wearing panties? She also ensured that her hair looked wonderful, making up in buoyancy and bounce what her mood was sorely lacking. When the knock she had been waiting for finally hit her door, she was out of her bedroom proper and sitting at her dainty French desk. "Come in," she said. As Richard Ford entered, oh, here we go. Here's the creepy, disgusting guy. I was betting I thought we were gonna see him at the party. What is he doing coming up to her bedroom? Like, hello, rude much. Also, doesn't she have an entire staff that should be keeping him away from her? Like, why is a stranger going up to the mistress of the house's, like, bedroom? But he should have stopped. His cologne preceded him, and Jin held on to the fact that at least he smelled good. The rest of him left her cold, however. Even though his pale blue suit was cut from the finest cloth and his bow tie was perfectly done, and in spite of the bowler in his hand and the handmade shoes on his feet, he was Ichabod Crane. Hey, don't knock Ichabod Crane! The cartoon version of that, I don't know who owns it, but there was a cartoon they used to put on at Halloween, and my mom had to turn it off because the end would scare me. That was the first like scary story I remember as a kid. Was the cartoon version of Ichabod Crane. I always liked him though, so don't knock Ichabod Crane. Also, if you've seen Sleepy Hollow, which we should watch that soon because it's fun. It is one of the times where Tim Burton having the majority of control did not go completely fucking nuts in a bad way. It's one of the times where Tim Burton having majority of control went completely fucking nuts in the good ways. That's because Johnny Depp had some control too. And they were both young and not fully trusted yet, so there were eyes on them making sure they, were doing things, shall we say, properly. They weren't, neither of them was the mega stars they would become, so there was still some oversight on them. But that movie is fucking amazing. Though I still have what the fuck moment over Christopher freaking Walken being in it. Like, why is he in that movie? I want to know. I want the behind the scenes casting story. That's what I need. How did Christopher Walken get cast in that movie? I need to know. How did it happen? Because he's on the list of like A-list celebrities. If you wanted a big name to play sort of a small role, yes and no, because it was played by multiple people. So when you see his face and it's Christopher Walken, it's like, what? There's so many other like high profile movie celebs that I would have thought of before never thinking of him for that role. It's just so weird. It's got to be the weirdest thing on his IMDb page. But I really want to know how it came to be that he got cast in that. What was the backstory? Because there has to be one. Because like Burton is one of those guys that reuses actors, but I don't think he'd worked with him before. As far as I know, they never worked together again. I don't remember him being in any of the other stuff that Burton's done. Then again, compared to Samuel T., even Joe Manganiello looked like he needed some work. Someone remind me who Joe Manganiello is? Was he a boxer? Like, I know the name, it's just not coming to me. Let me make myself perfectly clear, she said as she shut them in together. I am not doing this for my father. Oh, did she call him up there? Is she gonna, like, hedging her bets, or is she gonna, like, shove him out a window? At all. But I expect you to give the favorable terms to the Bradford Bourbon Company, as the two of you discussed. That's my agreement with him. Your agreement with me now. She smoothed her hair. We will live here. This is what Amelia is used to. And there's a guest room next door to this suite. That is acceptable. So she's deciding she's going to marry this guy to keep her lifestyle? I can't begrudge her it. I really can't. I can't say I wouldn't do the same. Hell, I'd take it now if somebody came along and said, hey, you can live a luxury lifestyle, but you're not in love with the person you have to marry and you have to have sex with them. Yeah, I can make that work. I'm prepared to act as your wife at all social engagements if you indulge in affairs, and I expect you will. Please keep them discreet. Yep, fair play. I will not be having any extramarital affairs. His voice grew low. And neither will you. We'll see about that. Chin shrugged. Given the way things were going, she didn't expect herself to find any male of any interest for quite some time. Also fair. Did you hear me, Jin? Richard came across to her and loomed. You will not like what happens if you disrespect me in that regard. Yeah, don't get any ideas, buddy. Chin rolled her eyes. She'd been double-crossing boyfriends for years, and none of them had found out, unless she wanted them to. If the mood struck her, she had no intention of denying herself. Chin. Yes, yes, fine. Where's the ring? So I'm guessing they're going to make the announcement at the party. Richard reached into his pocket and took out a dark blue velvet box. As he opened it, the emerald-cut diamond inside flashed and sparkled. At least he hadn't lied about that. It was enormous, on the Elizabeth Taylor scale. I've already drafted the announcement, he said. My representative will get it out to the press as soon as they hear back from me. The wedding will be as soon as possible. What do you think her brother's going to say when he gets told by, like, some random person, oh, congrats on your sister's engagement? And he's like, excuse me? She went to take the ring, but he snapped the lid closed. Oh, so we're ripping off the pretty woman again. There's one other detail to iron out. What is that? He reached forward and touched her shoulder. I think you know. Do not tell me to wait until the justice of the peace comes. I do not find that acceptable. Oh, so he wants to take privileges before the wedding? No. That's not happening. Chin burst out of the chair. I have no intention of sleeping with. Richard grabbed her by the hair and yanked her against him. Okay, now I'm throwing him out the window. But what is it with guys and grabbing the hair? Why is it always the hair? Like, she said she was sitting at a desk. Is there a letter opener? Because if there is, stab him in the neck repeatedly. And I have no intention of buying a Ferrari just to look at it in my garage. Name drop. Yes, Sarah, he does. And that's a nope. That is a big nope. My pen put a hole in the page. Bad pen. Damn it. See, because you know what's going to happen. My autistic brain cannot handle a hole in the page. I see through it, and I'm really mad now. So now what I'm going to be doing after book club wraps for the evening is finding another piece of paper and copying this with all the fucking marks and the highlighter onto a new page that doesn't have a hole in it. Bad pen. Very bad pen. Yeah, he wants to try the goods. He wants the milk without buying the cow, and nope. Access denied, buddy. And I got lipstick on the book. How do I have lipstick on my hand? Now there's lipstick on the book and I don't like it. Take your hands off me. Intimacy is a sacred part of marriage. To which I would be going, yep, it is, and we aren't married yet, so get your hands the fuck off me if you ever want that to actually happen. His eyes went to her lips, and something I'm prepared to enjoy. Let go of me. He began to drag her over to the bed. Even if you do not. Wow, I didn't think I would need the somebody is a rapist category for this, but apparently I do. Richard. She punched at his shoulders, his chest. Richard, what are you doing? I don't want... As he clamped his hand over her mouth and shoved her down, his smile was that of a predator. How did you know I like it rough? See, we are compatible after all. Yeah, if you're wearing shoes, take them off and beat him to death with the heel, but I don't think she's wearing shoes. It was unfathomable what happened next. Are we really going through with this? Are we really going through with this in this book? I was not expecting this. I'm sorry I did not put a warning for book has rape scene, but I was not fucking expecting that of this author. I've read like 10 books of hers. There's never okay, I can't say she's never written a scene like this before. Have characters in other books been the victims of rape? Yes. Did we see it in the book? No. Was there a scene detailing it happening? No. It was past tense, not current. Well, it was current, but we didn't see it, was the thing. So, really not expecting this, but apparently. It was unfathomable what happened next. As much as she struggled, as thin as she had assumed he was, he got her skirting up and her panties to the side. He penetrated her on a hard shove. A surge of nausea went through her, but she wasn't going to demean herself by showing any weakness in front of him. Focusing on the ceiling, she let him grunt and push into her, the burning sensation deep inside making her think of the color of her dress. Halfway through it, she fisted up the duvet and winced. Tell me you love me, Richard growled in his ear. Oh, so he's a power reassurance rapist. That's great. Again, murdering him in his sleep like the day after the wedding is now her best option. I mean, once they're legally married, if he dies, she gets everything, so... Yeah, marry him and then off him. You know, like the king's sister in the Tudors. She had it right. I will not... Richard arched up and put his hand around her throat. As he squeezed, she began to gasp. Tell me. I will not. Black rage narrowed his eyes, and he switched grips, raising his right hand. Me, people will talk, she sneered. I won't be able to cover up the stain, and I have to go to the brunch. My absence will be noted. His upper lip peeled back, but he dropped his hand, and fucked her so violently the headboard slammed against the wall. Yeah, really, nobody is going to notice this at the party she's attending in like 30 minutes. When he was through, he shoved himself off her and tucked himself away. I want you to change. Red is vulgar. I will not. With a quick move, he grabbed her skirt and ripped it right in two, right up the front. Then he jabbed his finger in her face. You show up in something else, Red, and we shall have words. Test me if you wish. Oh, I would be showing up in head to toe Red and be like, yeah, let's have words. Publicly in front of 600 people. Let's do that. I fucking dare you. Richard left, striding out and shutting the door with a declarative clap. It was only then that Jin started to shake, her body trembling hard, particularly her open thighs. Sitting up, she felt a welling between her legs. That was when she began to throw up. She emptied her stomach onto the ruined skirt, not that she'd eaten much in the last 24 hours anyway. Wiping her mouth on the back of her hand, she felt her eyes sting, but she pulled herself back from that ledge. In her mind, she heard her father telling her she was worthless, that marrying Richard Ford was the only thing she would ever do for the family. She wasn't doing it for the family. As usual, she'd made the decision in her own selfish interest. After much introspection, she had come to acknowledge a fundamental truth about herself. She couldn't survive in any other world, and Richard could give her this lifestyle she needed, even as her family might no longer be able to. It was going to cost her, apparently, but she had lost her self-respect years ago. To sacrifice her body at the altar of money? Fine. She would do what she had to. Yeah, see, no, this is why you marry him and then you murder him. Yeah, I know. I was gonna say he's the type that would have like an ironclad prenup, the kind Trump has with all his wives, because Marla Maples outed him on that. Um, that she actually wanted to divorce him after 3 months, but she was pregnant, and so decided she would stick it out through the pregnancy. And also, in all of his prenups, the amount of alimony they got went up the longer they stayed in the marriage. So she had to stay married to him for a full year. She would have gotten nothing, even if she had a child. So that's the only reason she stayed with him for like a year and a half till like a month or two after the birth, and then took the kid and got as far away as possible, making her the smartest of all three women Trump has married. But yeah, I bet this guy has like a progressive prenup like that or something like that. Though prenups don't usually cover like they usually only cover like in the event of divorce, not in the event of death. That's a different thing. I don't know. We're in Kentucky. Is Kentucky a 50-50 property state? Is it a communal property state like California? Probably not. But that would be important. Oh, I have an update to the things I have researched for my novel. To 175 different topics now. Oh, and there's a couple more things that definitely have put me on some kind of watch list. Because I had to Google how many murders happen in North America each year, and then what percentage of murders in North America are solved each year. The answer is like 30 to 50%, which is really concerning when you think about it. Also, that apparently 17,000 to 21,000 murders happen in North America. And when I say North America, I'm referring to America and Canada. And only about 700 of those happen in Canada. So the other 20,300 happen in America. Which, even accounting for population, which is just, a 10 times difference, that would make having 7,000 murders about average in America. So the fact that it's 3 times that, not saying you all have a gun problem, but maybe you have a murder problem. The steps of in vitro fertilization, which is surprisingly hard to find out. The steps of artificial insemination, which there is very little difference between the two. It's a question of steps. Mystique, St. Vincent's and the Grenadines Islands, resorts in Mystique. The Mandarin Hotel in Canal. What languages are found to be disarming? French, Spanish, and Italian, apparently. Saint-Tropez, which I didn't know was called Saint-Tropez. And what did the London Met police uniforms look like in the early 2000s? They look like they're a lot older than that. And the cost of private tours of the French Riviera. I know, if you're the cause. Well, okay, Sarah, you got to give me more credit than this. When I say murder them, I didn't say get caught. Like, you got to think about these things. See, this is why in school, this is what we used to say in gifted class when we were thinking of evil things to do. We used to say the difference between smart and gifted is the smart kid and the gifted kid can think of the same like scheme or plan or thing we're not supposed to do and how to do it, but the gifted kids are the ones who plan how to get away with it. I also scared the hell out of one of my cousin's boyfriends once because we were discussing something that was in the paper that involved domestic violence, and we're all in our early 20s, and so we were talking about it, and the two of them were together, and we were talking about like what would you do if that was happening to someone you knew and they wouldn't leave. And I told her that if like he ever was beating her and she wouldn't leave, which she would, but if she wouldn't, um I would do something about it. And she was like, what? And I'm like, well, I'd get rid of him one way or another. And she knows I can be kind of evil sometimes. And so it came around that like basically I said, like, if it absolutely came down to it and I was afraid for her life, would I kill him to protect her? And I was like, yes, of course I would. And he was like, well, then you'd be in jail. And I was like, I didn't say I would get caught. I'd be way more subtle about it than that. And the look I got from both of them, I will never forget it. It was hilarious to me. The problem is they were legitimately afraid of me because my family has always been afraid of me because they don't get how my brain works when I say things like that. But yeah. Later, though, she did ask me how I would do it, and I did tell her. Fresh glass of water if anyone wants to turn it a very bright color. I'm convinced about 50% of the stuff in that tube is just powdered coloring. It's like 50% color powder, like 25%, 25 to like 40% sugar, and then flavor. That's what I think the ratio in those is. Like someday I really do want to. I want to buy like just say like buy just like one flavor if they even do that. Buy like 10 packs of the green apple and try to dye a T-shirt with it because I'm sure it would work. It would probably smell really good. Chapter 30. God, we made it so far so fast. Yeah, I'm gonna write on my hand. Oh, come on, pen. Is my pen dying? Am I out of pen? See, that's the problem with when they're black like this. You can't see when you're out of ink. Those moments when all your friends are like, this bitch is crazy. Yep. Yep. That was me my whole life with my family. Yep. Not so both this bitch is crazy and this bitch is scary. Like there have been times my family legitly looked at me and were genuinely afraid of me, and I was very confused as to why. I mean, over the years I kind of figured it out. In retrospect, it was the very best day to play Hardy Boys with a computer at the old site. As Lane parked Mac's truck behind the 200-year-old cabin and the various storage barns, there was no one around. No administrators, no floor workers, no one accepting deliveries of supplies, no tourists either. A coffee helped, Max said as they both got out. Good. You want some of this power bar? Not without a gun to my head. Heading over to the refurbished log cabin, Lane stood to one side as Mac put his pass card through the reader and pushed us inside. The interior glowed with old wood carefully tended to, and the light from outside passing through the bubbled glass that had been added in the late 1800s. Rustic armchairs offered those waiting places to sit, and a trestle table with a lot of modern office equipment was clearly where Mac's assistant spent her time. Even if it's black, it should drawn down unless its sticky glue substance steel is broken so the ink hasn't pulled down like it's supposed to. Getting washed or very hot can mess this up. Yeah, because they are like where they're like vacuum sealed, right? Yeah, so they should. It should be fine. I don't know. I'm sure I have another pen somewhere. Probably. But yeah, I thought they were designed to like, yeah, do that. I don't know. Maybe it does sit in a desk that catches sun all day, so it may have gotten too hot recently. Because it has been above 30 or even above 35 the last like 6 days. How long since you've been here? The master distiller asked as he hit the light switch. Actually, about a day or two. When the guy looked over and Lane shrugged. Needed a place to think, so I went and sat around the barrels. I used the old passcode. Ah, yeah, I do that too. It didn't help. Doesn't work for me either, but maybe one day. Mac nodded to the rear of the reception area. I'm in the back here. The distiller's office took up most of the cabin's interior, and for a moment as Lane stepped into the space, he closed his eyes and drew in a deep breath. The MD of the Bradford Bourbon Company was nearly a religious figure in not just the organization but the state of Kentucky as a whole, and that made this place sacred. Accordingly, its walls were covered from floor to ceilings with a panache of the company's liquor labels dating from the mid 1800s all the way up to the early 2000s. God, it's just the same. Lane looked around. Hi, persnickety. What's above 35 in American? Um, 90. Hey, it's almost considering cooling off here. What is it in American? I forget. It's probably like 90 to 100. It's hot. Really, really, like unseasonably hot. Like, turn the fan all the way up to the highest setting and make sure it's directly on your face at night hot. By the way, even in this heat, the puppy still sleeps burrowed under many layers of heavy winter blanket and is very, very happy with that. Typical day in Texas. Yeah, I've heard it's bad there right now. Maybe if y'all manage your power grid correctly, so you could have air conditioning and stuff without blowing the whole power system. Texas is kind of a desert. Am I looking on the wrong page? Lane looked around, tracing the evidence of his family's history. My grandfather used to take me here when they were putting it all together for the first time as a tourist site. I was 5 or 6 and he'd bring only me. I think it was because he wanted an architect in the family and knew that Edward was company bound and Max wasn't going to turn into anything. Wow. What did you end up doing with yourself? Max sat down behind his desk and turned on his computer. Last I heard you were in New York. Poker. I'm sorry. Lane cleared his throat and felt inadequate. I played poker. Made more money than I would have if I'd gotten a desk job, considering I majored in psychology and wouldn't have worked my entire adult life. So you're good with the cards. Very. He changed the subject by nodding at the walls. Where are your labels? The computer let out a beep, and then Max signed in at the login screen. Haven't put any up. Come on now. My father's 35th run of family reserves right over there. He pointed to the far corner by the door. Was the last. Lane grabbed a chair from the conference table and rolled it across the bare, polished floorboards. You need to get your batches counted. Uh-huh. Max sat back in the great leather throne. So what do you need? What can I try to find for you? Lane moved in next to the guy and focused on the blue-green glow of the computer screen. Financials. I need profit and loss statements over time. Account balances, transfer records. Mac whistled under his breath. That's uphill of my pay grade. Corporate's got all that. Wait, the board book. What's that? Jesus, shouldn't he know? Max started going through the file system, opening the documents, and hitting print. It's the materials handed out in advance of the trustees' meeting. Senior management gets them, and so do I. Of course, the real stuff happens behind closed doors in the executive committee an hour before the open session, and there are no notes on that. But this should give you an idea of the company, or at least what they're telling the board about the company. As the man started handing over page after page from the printer, Lane frowned. What exactly goes down at the executive committee? It's where they debate the meat of things, as well as the stuff they don't want anyone else to know about. I don't think there are even minutes taken. Who attends? Your father. Over came 2 more pages. The company's general counsel, the board chair and the vice chair, CFO, COO, and then special guests, depending on the issues. I was called in once when they were debating changing the formula for number 15. I shot that bright idea down, and they must have agreed with me because the folly never surfaced again. I was in that boardroom only long enough to be heard, and then I was escorted out. Do you know if they have an agenda in advance? I would think so. When I went, there were 4 other people waiting in the hall with me, so they were working off some kind of plan. It's all run out of your father's offices at the house. Yeah, let's go break that door down and raid that computer. Texas is about half desert, the rest is forest, and then the coast. Do you have actual beaches? Why did I immediately see the computer vibrating when you said beach? I didn't do it, I swear. Maybe there was just a truck going by. Is this book basically boring ass people walking about dull whiskey companies or bourbon? Yes. Talking about. Yes, it apparently is. Like, I I'm struggling to believe we are through so many pages and not a whole hell of a lot has happened. I mean, I like books that have a lot of dialogue in them. I really do. And this is an improvement over the lack of dialogue in 50 Shades and 365. But it would help if they were talking about actual things or if the author had done some fucking research, which she clearly did not. Because there's holes in this that even I can see. There was less talk about the Italian mob in 365. Yeah, these books really are a love story to bourbon and the making of and running thereof of a bourbon company. That's very true. Like, I wonder if maybe she knows somebody in that business and that's where the idea came from, or I don't know. Lane started going through the papers that were still warm from having been through the machine. Minutes of the previous meeting, attendance, updates on the operations that he didn't understand. He needed a translator who he could trust and greater access. He's one of the like, I don't know, are the children owners in the company? Wouldn't that give him the right to see anything he fucking wants? Excuse me. Mac went on to print out the previous 3 board meetings worth of materials, clipped it together, and put it in files. I need to borrow your truck, Lane said as they stared at the pile. Drop me at home and it's yours. I should try to sober up anyway. I owe you. Just save this company, and we're more than even. As Mac put out his palm, Lane shut hard. Whatever it takes, no matter who it hurts. The master distiller closed his eyes. Thank you, God. Do we think he's going to use his poker skills to save the company? Maybe. I mean, you can win a lot of money playing poker. I used to watch poker tournaments. I liked there was one they used to hold in Vegas that was always a lot of fun. They don't anymore because they suck. It was what was it? It was different sponsors every year, but it was a Texas Hold'em heads up tournament, and I always liked it. I forget who hosted it. It was a long time ago, but it was fun. I think it was at Caesar's Palace. Like watching exotic animals at the zoo, Lizzie thought. Standing at the very edge of the tent, she watched the glittering people wind in and out of the tables she and Greta had set up. The talk was loud, the perfume thick, the jewels flashing. All of the women were in their hats and flats, and the men were in pale suits, and a couple even wore cravats and bowlers. It was kind of like a fantasy life that so many thought they wanted to live. She knew the truth, however. After all these years working at Easterly, she was aware that the rich were not inoculated against tragedy. Their cocoon of luxury just made them think they were. God, those spreadsheets that Rosalinda had left behind. Quite a sight, isn't it? Lizzie looked over. Miss Aurora, I can't believe you're out here. You never leave the kitchen during the brunch. A woman's tired eyes surveyed the guests, the setup, the uniformed waiters, and the sterling silver mint julep cups on their sterling silver trays. They're moving my food. Of course they are. Your menu's exquisite. The champagne flutes are holding? Lizzie nodded and refocused on the crowd. We've got about 100 in reserve at the moment. The waiters are doing a great job. Where's your partner? For a split second, she almost gave the woman a Lane update, which was crazy and would have amounted to much. And wouldn't have amounted to much. All she knew was that he'd left with Edwin McAllen, the master distiller, about an hour ago. Or had it been 2? Greta's over there. She pointed to the opposite corner. She's riding herd on the flutes. Says finding the used ones that have been set aside is an Easter egg hunt on steroids. Or at least I think that's what she said. Her last report had a lot of German in it, usually not the best sign. Miss Aurora shook her head. That wasn't who I was asking about. It was good to see you and Lane in the same room again. I'm betting this dies at the end of this book as like the tragic ending that makes the two of them like get together or something. Ah, Lizzie cleared her throat. I'm not sure what to say about that. He's a good boy, you know. Listen, Miss Aurora, there's nothing going on between him and me. You fucking lying bitch. Other than 8 hours of sex the evening before, he's married. For now. That woman is trash. True. Can't disagree there, Lizzie thought. Well, Lizzie, he's going to need you. Gee, why do I think this woman knows what's going on? Lizzie put up her palms to try and derail the conversation. Miss Aurora, he and I, you're going to have to be there for him. There's a lot that's going to fall on his shoulders. Yeah, she knows. She knows everything. I feel like the author wants to rip off the scene in Sabrina where the younger brother says, you send me the annual reports, you just assumed I can't read. Yes! I know the scene! Yes, that is like my favorite line in that movie. Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly that. Yep. That has always been my like favorite line. Yep. But yeah, I think so because like it doesn't track though. If you make this guy 19, it tracks, but this guy is like 30. So the fact that he knows fuck all about his own family business, of which he would definitely be on the board and be expected to attend those meetings, like, you can say, oh, his older brother was, well, his older brother hasn't been for a while, so it would have fallen on him long before now. Like, but yeah, I think you're right about that. I definitely think you're right about that. Okay, I'm getting so sick of spam email. It's just getting weird now. Like, really, really weird. Oh, I have one email I actually need to read. Damn, later. Just making sure it's working because it's been glitchy. Has anyone noticed Discord's been glitchy the last few days? So you know about everything. He's going to need someone with a level head to stand by him. Miss Aurora's face became very grim. He's a good man, but he's going to be tried in ways he never has been. He's going to need you. What did Rosalinda tell you? Before Miss Aurora could answer, a tall, striking brunette woman came up out of the crowd. Instead of passing by, she stopped and put her hand forward. Lizzie King, my name is Sutton Smythe. Okay, knew she'd be there. We knew she'd be there. Also, she better get her purse back. Lizzie recoiled, but then got with the program and accepted what was offered. I know who you are. I just wanted to tell you how incredibly beautiful those gardens are. Astonishing. You and Mrs. von Schlieber are true artists. There was nothing lurking behind the woman's open expression. No falsity, no ulterior motive or anything. The lack of shade made Lizzie think of Chantal's fake ladylike stuff. That's very kind of you. Sutton took a sip from her mint julep cup, and the massive ruby on her right ring finger glowed. I'd love to have you over to my property, but I know better, and I respect those boundaries. I did have to let you know how much I respect your talent, however. You're sleeping with different men. Why is she, like, doing the marking your territory, stay away from my man thing? Thank you. You're so welcome. Sutton smiled and walked off, or at least she tried to. She didn't make it far, people crowding around her, talking to her, the woman sizing up her clothes, the men sizing up her non financial assets. You know, Lizzie murmured, she's a nice person. When there was no reply, she looked over. Miss Aurora was heading back for the kitchen door, her gait slow and unsteady as if her feet hurt. And why wouldn't they? Plus, come on, she'd been in the ER how many days ago? Lizzie was glad the cook had come out for once to see the grand finale of all their collective effort. Maybe next year they could get her to stay a while longer. Yeah, she's not going to be there next year. Across the tent, Chantal was sitting at the table with 7 other women who were versions of her, namely bright-colored, expensive birds with their plumage largely paid for by the men in their lives. In 20 years, after whatever children they had had washed out of their households, they were going to look like wax figurines of themselves, everything jacked up and filled and enhanced. And actually, they did work. Their profession was breeding and remaining attractive to their husbands. This is a full-time occupation. A lot like the mares that had given birth to the thoroughbreds who were racing on the track in a couple of hours. Lizzie's, Lizzie thought of her farm, which she had paid for herself. No one could take that away from her. She had earned it. Far better than being a perpetual suck-up. As if she took out her phone and checked to see if Lane had texted. As she took out her phone and checked to see if Lane had texted her, she told herself it was the difference. It was different between the two of them because she didn't need his money, and she didn't care about his position, and she wasn't going to be told what to do by anybody. When she saw there was nothing on her phone, a stabbing sensation hit her chest, and she studiously ignored it as she put her cell away. It was different between her and Lane. Crap. Why was she thinking as if they were back together? Because you just screwed his brains out. End of chapter. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Neither. Okay, on the one hand, with Edward, we can be a little forgiving for not having a what are we doing conversation because he didn't know it was actually her. Though they need to have that conversation with the quickness. But yeah, Lane and Lizzie definitely need to be having that conversation because it's a lot more complicated. And if they, like, having been there, done that, if you think you can just keep it sex when you've been a thing before, wow, are you wrong? Because that's just never, ever, 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 ever going to work. Okay, I don't know what the hell the people above me are doing, but it's really loud and annoying. Ugh. Ow. Ugh. 31. Oh, excuse me. Chapter 31. Samuel T. blew off the lineup of sheep at the base of Easterly's Hill, shooting his Jag around the Mercedes, Audi, Porsches, and limos. Oh my god. How many brand names did we just drop? Okay. Jag, Mercedes, Audi, Porsche. Is limo a brand name? I don't think so. And waving at the Parkers who tried to flag him down so he'd stop. Nope, he did not ride in vans with the great unwashed, and he'd be damned if he'd leave his girl in the hands of some 16-year-old yahoo who was liable to strip her gears as the little bastard parked her in the marsh at the side of the road. Okay, so he's one of those guys with the car. As he crested the rise, he floated another wave at the solitary attendant up top and didn't spare a glance at the people stepping out of the van that pulled up in front of the house. Heading for the garages, he parked parallel to the mansion's eastern flank and killed the engine. And immediately he heard the party on the other side of the garden wall. The patter of talk forming a multi-layered sound rather like a symphony's preamble to some great dramatic rise of a solo. It was a long while before he got out of the car. I love you, Samuel T. This is who we are, who we've been since we were teenagers. Or something to that effect. He couldn't remember the exact words Jin had used on him because when she'd been talking at him, he'd been too busy trying not to lose his mind. God, the things he'd been through with that woman. All those years of one-upping each other. And she was right, of course. He did date waitresses and hairdressers because they weren't like her, and he did compare every female he was around against her. And yes, they all came up wanting. He hadn't slept for more than an hour, maybe two, that conversation running forward and backwards in his mind over and over again. In the end, the one thing that stuck out the most was tied to the passage of time. Over the years, he'd seen Jin in 100,000 different moods, and she'd only teared up once before. It had been about 15 years ago, when he'd been a junior at UVA, and she'd been a freshman at Sweetbriar. They'd come home for Easter break, mostly because of his parents, only a little because of Jin. Naturally, they'd seen each other. It was a small world, especially when you wanted to put yourself in the path of someone else in Charlemont, Kentucky. And strangely, that was what he had to do. Jin hadn't been out at any of the parties their group went to, because she was pregnant. He'd had to use a pickup game of basketball with her brothers as an excuse. Not that he'd spent any time at all on the court that had been behind the garages, ditching Max and Lane as soon as he set foot on the property. He'd found her out by the pool in a sweatshirt and shorts. She looked like hell, and she told him she was taking a break from Sweetbriar and moving home for a while, that she didn't like college, that she just wanted to rest for a while. Yeah, so that's how we hide things. Not a surprise. Wild child that she was, it had been hard to imagine her faithfully adhering to any schedule independently, whether it was a part of an English major or as a job. She was far better suited to the pursuit for which she'd been bred, lady of a grand house. They'd ended up in an argument. They always ended up in an argument, and he had stormed off. He intended to just leave her, but as usual, he hadn't been able to pull a clean break. Before he'd gone through the gate to get out of the garden, he'd glanced back. Jin had her head in her hands, and she was weeping. He returned to her, but she had run into the house and gone so far as to lock the French doors behind her. He hadn't seen her for about a year after that, mostly because even at the ridiculously young age of 20, he'd recognized they were no good for each other. He hadn't been able to make the separation stick, however. He was never able to do that. Samuel T. thought about what she'd said the day before, about those tears of hers. What if she hadn't been playing him? For some reason, that terrified him. And what was just as shocking, he found himself ready to stop fighting with her. For so long, his pride had demanded responses to what she did, who she did, but it wasn't a defeat if the other person put down their sword at the same time you relinquished your own. The truth, he was kidding himself if he thought there was anyone on the planet for him other than the headstrong, spoiled pain in the ass. She'd had his heart in the palm of her hand since the first day he'd laid eyes on her. Okay, is he gonna get in a fight with the guy she's kind of engaged to? Are they gonna get into? Is somebody gonna slap somebody with a glove? We are in Kentucky, so pistols at dawn is not out of the realm of possibility here. Getting out of his car, he brushed his hair back and buttoned the front of his pink, pale blue, and yellow plaid sport coat. Ugh. Pink, pale blue, and yellow plaid? No. Then he bent down and took his straw derby hat from the jump seat and arranged the thing in perfect position on his head. Using the nearest gate into the garden, he walked into the party. Here's the man, Samuel T. Mint julep for you. What the fuck is in a mint julep, by the way? Like, I know it's alcoholic, but what the fuck is actually in it? And don't just say mint. Buddies of his, gentlemen he'd known since kindergarten, came up to him, clapping hands, talking about handicapping the race, asking about parties to come later in the day, the night, Sunday morning. He responded with throwaways, his eyes searching the crowd. Will you excuse me? He said. See, he's going to know that something's wrong with her, that something happened to her, because he knows her well enough. He didn't wait for any permissions, but strode across the tented space, bypassing the waiters with trays, and more people who reached out to him, and several women anxious to connect with him. Mint and tulips. I think the mint gets muddled. That helps. Thanks. Oh, and Sasha says rub the belly. Finally, he found her, standing alone, staring out at the river. As he approached, he traced the elegant lines of Jin's body, lingering on the way her shoulders were left exposed by the silk dress she had on. For some reason, she had a long scarf tied around her throat. the ends waving in the wind created by the tent fans, the ends trailing down to her unbelievable legs. He hated the way his heart beat so hard in his chest, despised the fact that he had to subtly wipe his palms next to his jacket's double vents, prayed that his read on her was correct and that she had for once been speaking from the heart, and that they were, ready finally to get real about each other. Oh, this is about to be really bad. Chin. When she didn't turn around but just stayed fixed on the river, he put his hand on her arm. She wheeled around so fast that her mint julep splashed all over his jacket, leaving a damp line across his midsection. Not that he cared. Chumpy much, he drawled, trying to recover some of his mojo. I'm so sorry. She reached forward with a little monogrammed cocktail napkin. Oh, I've ruined. Please, I have a backup in the trunk. Okay, I like a guy who's prepared. Mostly because he always sweated at the boxes in the track, and he'd be damned if he'd spend the rest of his night in that kind of mess. So ready for the big day, she said as he took off his jacket. He was folding the thing over his arm when it dawned on him that she wasn't meeting his eyes. Well, she prompted, my brother has a horse in the running, maybe two, sired by that nasty bastard Nebuchadnezzar. Still no eye contact. Under his breath, he muttered, I hate jumping out of airplanes. That got her to look at him, but only for a moment. What? As those blue eyes of hers went back out on the river, he cursed. Listen, Jin. Yes. She was so still, he thought, and so much smaller than he was. Funny, he never noticed the height difference when they were going at it. Nearly 100 pounds less and 6 inches shorter didn't mean a thing when that mouth of hers was going to hell and back. He took a deep breath. So I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, and honestly, you're right. You're absolutely right about everything. He wasn't sure what he was expecting to get in response, but the slump of her shoulders was not it. She seemed utterly defeated. I'm not any better at this than you are, he said, but I want to. Well, God damn it, Jin. I love. Stop, she blurted. Don't say it, please. Not now. Don't. Good morning, Samuel T. How are you? Oh, yep, it's going to be that guy. The appearance of a third party registered about as much as a housefly passing through would have. Except then Richard Ford put his arm around Jin's waist and kept going, with, Have you told him the good news, darling? Yep. For the first time in his life, Samuel T. felt the cold wash of horror, which, considering some of the things he'd done in the past 2 decades, was saying something. And what might that be? He forced himself to drawl. You two opening a lucrative organ selling business over the internet? Wow, that was. I mean, I approve, but damn. Ford's beady little eyes grew nasty. You have such an active imagination. It helps your clients, I'm sure. Actually, it does help to be very creative as a lawyer. With your sense of ethics in business, I wouldn't be casting stones in that glass house, Ford. Samuel T. focused on Jin, his chest turning to stone. So, you have something to tell me, do you? In reply, Ford took her left hand and thrust it forward. We're going to be married. On Monday, actually. Really? Samuel T. blinked once, then smiled. Marvelous news, truly. And Richard, let me be the first to congratulate you. She she fucks like a wild animal, especially when you do her from behind, but I'm sure you already know that half the country does. Dude. I get that he thinks she's playing some kind of game and that she was bullshitting yesterday and he doesn't know what's going on, but still, dude. Like, have I said the completely wrong thing socially? Yes. Have I said cringeworthy things without knowing it? Yes. Have I ever said anything that comes close to that? Fuck no. I mean, I do not have any sense of guile. I do not understand subtlety, hints, innuendos, or anything nuanced. But I know better than to do that. Still don't know where the puppy is. He's very sleepy. He has sleepy days and then he has crazy days. But I think all this heat is actually getting into him a little bit because even for him, it's pretty bleeping hot. You know, he likes it, but it gets to the puppy. As Richard began sputtering things, Samuel T. leaned in and kissed Jen on the cheek. "You win," he whispered in her ear. Turning away from the happy couple, he went back to his buddies, grabbed 2 mint juleps from a passing waiter, drank them as if they were water. "What's on your face?" someone asked him. "I'm sorry? You're leaking." He passed a hand over the eye that was twitching and frowned as he saw the wetness. "I got splashed with a drink over there." One of his fraternity brothers barked out laughing. "Some female finally throw one in your face? About time." "I got what I deserved all right," he said numbly as he grabbed his third julep. "But have no fear, gentlemen. I'm getting back on the horse." So he's gonna get caught like in a closet with a waitress or something. The table roared, men backslapping him, somebody pulling over a woman and shoving her forward. Oh, that's so very polite. As she put her arms around his neck and leaned into his body, he took what was offered, kissing her deeply, feeling her up even though they were in public. Okay, so they just shoved some random woman at him and he's making out and feeling her up? Like, Jesus, you don't even, like, I'm sorry, do they have hookers at this party? Wouldn't surprise me. "Oh, Samuel T," she whispered against his mouth. "I've waited for you to do this to me forever." "Me too, darlin', me too." He has no fucking clue who she is. She didn't know him well enough to recognize the dead tone in his voice, and he couldn't have cared less about the enthusiasm in hers. Why is it guys in these books, even the second and third guys, have women just falling all over them? And also, who are these women that act like this? He had to save somehow, or he wasn't going to be able to live in his skin for one goddamn minute longer. Chin was so much better at this game than he was. If she hadn't just succeeded in shattering his heart into 1,000 pieces, he would have given her props. As Lane pulled Mac's pickup truck through the stone pillars of the red and black stables, the alley of trees before him seemed 100 miles long. The cluster of stables and buildings so far off in the distance, they might as well have been in a different state. Proceeding forward, dust kicked up behind him, boiling in the morning light. He knew this because he kept checking the rear view to make sure he hadn't been followed. The cobblestone drive circled in front of the biggest barns, and he parked off to the side, on the grass. No reason to lock up as he got out. Hell, he left the keys in the ignition. One deep breath in and he was back in his childhood, when he'd come out here to muck the stalls during his summers off from prep school. His grandparents had believed in instilling a good work ethic. His parents had been less concerned with so much. Heading over to the caretaker's cottage, it was difficult to believe his brother really lived in such modest quarters. Edward had always been a force of energy in the world, moving, always moving, a conqueror constantly looking for victory, whether it was in sports, in business, or with women. And now, this little building, this was it? Well, at least somebody's finally filling him in on what's going on, I assume. When Lane came up to the door, he knocked on the screen's frame. "Edward, you in there? Edward." As if he could be anywhere else. Pang, pang, pang. "Edward, it's me." "Lane?" came a muffled voice. He cleared his throat. "Yes, it's me. I need to talk to you." "Hold on." When the door eventually opened, Lane saw his grandfather standing before him, not his brother. Edward was so thin that his jeans hung like old man pants from his hip bones, and he was slightly hunched as if the pain he'd suffered had permanently shifted his spine forward toward the fetal position. "Edward." He got a grunt in return and some hand motions indicating it was up to him to open the screen and come inside. "Pardon me while I sit back down," Edward said as he made his way over to the chair he'd clearly been in. "Standing is not agreeable." The groan was almost stifled as he lowered himself into position. Lane shut the door, put his hands in the pockets of his slacks, tried not to stare at his brother's ruined face. So, please don't bother commenting upon how well I look. I. In fact, let's just nod and you can go. No doubt Miss Aurora made you come here so that you could attest to the fact that I'm still breathing. She's not well. That got his brother's attention. How so? The story came out quickly. ER looked fine afterwards, still working the brunch. Edward's eyes drifted away. That's her, all right. She's going to outlive the rest of us. I think she'd like to see you. And we'll never go back to that house. She'd come out here. After a long moment, that stare swung back. Do you honestly think that being anywhere near me would do her good? Before Lane could comment, Edward continued. Besides, I'm not one for visitors. Speaking of entertaining, why aren't you enjoying the Derby brunch? I got an invitation, which I found a bit ironic. I didn't bother to RSVP. A horrid breach of manners, but in my new incarnation, social pleasantries are anachronisms from another life. Lane walked around looking at the trophies. What's on your mind? Edward asked. You're never without words. I don't know how to say this. Try a noun first. A proper noun, provided it's not Edward. I assure you I'm uninterested in any soapbox preaching about how I should get my life in order. Lane turned and faced his brother. It's about father. Edward's lids lowered. What about him? The image of Rosalinda in that chair was preceded by an auditory replay of Chantal's voice telling him she was pregnant and not leaving the house. Lane's curled up off his teeth. I hate him. I hate him so fucking much. He's ruined us all. Before he could start in with all that had happened, Edward put his palm out and released an exhausted sigh. You don't have to say it. What I want to know is how you found out. Lane frowned. Wait, you know? Of course I know. I was there. No, no, he thought in shock. Edward couldn't have been. Edward couldn't have been in on the money losses, the debt, the possible embezzlement. The man was not just brilliant with business, but honest as a Boy Scout. You couldn't. No. Lane shook his head. Please tell me you're not. Don't be naive, Lane. Rosalinda's dead, Edward. She killed herself in her office yesterday. Now it was Edward's turn to look surprised. What? Why? Lane threw his hands up. Did you think it wouldn't affect her? Edward frowned. What the hell are you talking about? The money, Edward. Jesus Christ, don't be dense. Why would the fact that father wouldn't pay my ransom affect her? Lane stopped breathing. What did you just say? Excuse me. Edward rubbed his eyes like his entire skull hurt. Then he went for the beefeater bottle next to him and took a deep draw right from the open neck. Do we have to do this? He didn't pay for your release? Oh, of course he didn't. He's always hated me. I wouldn't put it past him to have engineered the entire kidnapping. I kind of had that thought. All Lane could do was stand there and blink as his head went rush hour traffic jam on him. But he told the press, he told us he was negotiating with them. And I was there, listening on the other end of the phone. That was not what was occurring. Further, I assure you, there were no repercussions to his failure to comply. There were repercussions to his failure to comply. Lane's gut got churning. They could have killed you. After another lift of the bottle, Edward let his head fall back against the chair. Don't you know, brother? They did kill me. Now, what the hell are you talking about? End of chapter. Ugh. Alright. I am going to use the ladies' room and hopefully come back with a puppy, so I'll be right back. We got about 40 minutes left, and I actually guessed correctly. I didn't actually page count, but I guessed correctly that we would be on chapter 32, and we are, so things are going well. I need to get something here so I can put the ducks here when I have to step away, so there's something to look at. Because if I put them on the desk, you can't see them because my desk is too low. Okay, let's see if we can make this work. This is a bad idea. It's a very bad idea. Okay, it's almost tall enough. We're gonna roll with that for now. I'll be right back. I can confirm the puppy is under his puppy bed, which also means I can't reach him because he's at the back of his crate. So sorry I can't show off a puppy. But he's having a very important nap. Which also means he's gonna be up all night. Which means in the morning I'll find whatever mess he's made. Persnickety, how's Sasha tonight? Is she enjoying the heat or looking at you to make it stop? Chapter 32. She was on a strange type of high, Jin decided as she walked with her new fiancé among her family's guests, nodding to those who made eye contact, speaking when required to. The cotton wool sensation that had enveloped her body was something between a saturation drunk and a Xanax bender. The outside world coming at her through a filter that slowed down time, thickened the air into a custard-like solid, and removed any sense of temperature from her skin. Richard, on the other hand, seemed very alert as he told everyone about their engagement. the pride in his face akin to a man who had just purchased a new home in Vale or perhaps a yacht. He did not seem to notice the subtle shock that was so very often quickly hid, or maybe he didn't care about that. You win. She heard Samuel T.'s voice in her head as she took a deep breath. Timing. Timing, she thought. Timing was everything. That and money. Samuel T. and his people were very wealthy by any standard, but they didn't have a spare 50 to 60 million to fill up the debt cavern in her family's balance sheets. Only the likes of Richard Ford the Fourth did, and Jin was prepared to leverage her newfound position as the jackass's wife to help out her kin. But that was going to have to wait until after she put a ring on him. A hold on her elbow brought her head around. Richard leaned in. I said, come this way. I'm going to go inside for a moment. No, you're not. You're going to stay by my side. Okay. I would not be tolerating. Looking him right in the face, she said, I'm bleeding between my legs, and you know why. That's hardly something I can ignore. An expression of both shock and distaste tightened those features she was already learning to hate. Yes, do take care of that. How magnanimous. Can somebody, like, get some arsenic going? As if her body were a car with a dent that required fixing. Walking off, she found that weeding around groups of people who spoke too loud and laughed too much caused her a prickling anxiety, and yet the feeling did not dissipate as she stepped into Easterly's cool, quiet interior. She had bled after Richard had been done with her, but she already attended to that need with a panty liner, so she'd come inside for a different reason, and she knew just where to go. The last time she had had sex in this house, excluding that brief hookup in the garden the other evening, and what had just happened in her bedroom earlier, she had been well over 2 years ago. She had ended most of her easterly romps and excursions as soon as Amelia had gotten old enough to know what a slut was. There we go. Oh, why am I not surprised that it's a bourbon recipe? A mint julep is a classic bourbon cocktail made with bourbon, mint sugar or simple syrup, and crushed ice, traditionally served in a metal julep cup. To make one gently muddle mint leaves. So it is usually, I thought the metal cups were weird. Is that like to keep it cold? Yeah, most drinks are not served in metal cups. But it sounds like it's like a cool, refreshing, like summer cocktail kind of thing. Uh, uh, no reason for the dear girl to witness in person what others were going to tell her about her mother. At least that way, Jin had always thought, Mommy might be able to sport a credible denial. Excuse me. But 2 years ago on a random Thursday evening, after an uneventful sit-down dinner, she'd found herself slipping up. In the wine cellar, proceeding down to the staff hallway, she went past Rosalinda's and Mr. Harris's offices, or rather where the butler still was and the controller had been, and opened the broad door to reveal the stairway to the basement. She was entirely unsurprised to find the glow of a light down at the bottom. There was only one reason for it to be on, especially as all of the bourbon, champagne, and chardonnay for the brunch had been delivered to the staging area. In any event, no part of the family's private collection would ever be used for such an occasion. Muddle the mint leaves with syrup in the cup, add bourbon and crushed ice, stir until frosted, and garnish with a fresh sprig of mint. Ensuring aroma is prominent with each sip, it is famously associated with the Kentucky Derby. Really? Is it like their official drink? I know it was like I've heard of mint juleps before, mostly from Star Trek. And so I knew it was a Southern thing because it's Dr. McCoy who makes one in what is that episode called? The one with the flowers that spray the spores to make you like happy and like unconcerned with things on the planet, and the one where Spock meets up with an old love interest. I forget what it's called. Her descent was silent, the pattern of squeaking boards long since memorized from back in her days, teenagers stealing bottles out of the depths of the tremendous basement. As she came to the bottom of the steps, she slipped off her shoes and put them aside. The uneven concrete was a cold relief on the soles of her feet, and her nose threatened to sneeze as the mustiness registered in her sinuses. Passing by the bomb shelters that had been made in the 40s out of lead, walling sets at right angles, had been made in the 40s out of lead walling sets at right angles. Ugh, there's a sentence. She padded along, wrapping her arms around herself, although it was mainly a reflex, something she did because she could have been chilled down here. She still felt nothing. The wine cellar was separated from the larger basement by a fireproof, bulletproof glass wall that was outfitted with polished wood supports and a door that had a code to it. Inside, the gleaming mahogany paneled room was fitted floor to ceiling with handmade bottle shelves, thousands of lots of priceless wine, champagne, and liquor protected from both shifts in temperature and thieves of the human variety. There was also a tasting table in the corner surrounded by oxblood club chairs. And she was right. The thing was being put to use, and there was a tasting of sorts going on. Samuel T.'s sacrificial lamb was stretched out on the glossy surface, her blonde hair spilling over to hanging off the table's far end. Okay, I did not literally think I said he's gonna get caught having sex in a closet. Apparently it's the cellar. I knew it was gonna be her because it has to be. Come on. I'm trying to remember that I like this author, though I'm reconsidering my own taste level. In fairness, I did start reading her books when I was like 17, so maybe that had something to do with it. I don't like books that exist purely to check a list of cliches off. So far, this is all a bunch of cliches. Ugh. That's what I am so desperately trying to avoid. Oh, I hear a puppy. There you are. Hello. Do you want to cuddle? Do you want to cuddle? He's sleepy. Come here. Come here. Come here, you sleepy little thing. Yeah, he's gonna need a minute to wake up. Yes, you sleepy little baby. Oh, you're all warm. You're all warm. Yes, rub my belly, rub my belly, rub my belly, rub my belly. I know, rub my belly. You want up? No, he's still half asleep. Give him a minute. You're not even moving. No, you're just sleepy. You're just sleepy, babe. There's like a 50-50 chance he falls asleep again. Yeah, you're just a sleepy baby, aren't you? Yes, you are. Yes, you're just a sleepy baby that wants his belly rubbed. So cute. Come here, you. He's starting to wake up. You want up? Come on. Up, up. Nah, too much effort. Give him a minute. He'll wake up. Yeah, you want up? Come on. You can do it. You can do it. Come on. There we go. There we go. There we go. There's my baby. There's the baby. Look at the puppy. Look how cute this is. And how sleepy. Look at me. He's so cute. Yes, we'll give you a cuddle. Little sweetie. Yeah. Little sweetie baby. Yes, you're so tired, I know. Just a big sleepy baby today, aren't we? Mm-hmm. Are you planning to get up to no good tonight? Huh? Are you gonna make a really big mess? He's going, yeah, but you're not supposed to know about that. No, I'm not supposed to know about that, am I? No. Right, little puppy? Hmm? Is that right? You think about it? Yeah, he's still sleepy, baby. He's like a 2-year-old when they wake up from a nap. It takes a while. Love you. Love you. Yes, I do. I love you. Little cutie baby. Okay. Thank you for the cuddles. We got like 20 minutes to finish the chapter, okay? And then you can get all the attention in the world. Okay? He's not registering anything that I'm saying right now. He's just got the blank staring off into space expression because he's sleepy. Yes, you're just so sleepy. Just so sleepy. I know. I know, but you had to come and be cuddled. Couldn't miss up all the belly. Couldn't miss all the belly. No, need the belly. Right? You need the belly, don't you? Yes. Yes, and you love the belly. All right. You hold down your pillow for a while. Okay? Have a cat nap. He knows how to do that because he was raised by kitties. It also means he has a healthy respect for kitties. Samuel T.'s sacrificial lamb was stretched out on the glossy surface, her blonde hair spilling over to hang off the table's far end, her naked body gleaming in the low light from the brass fixtures. She was completely naked, her peach dress having been thrown carelessly on top of one of the chairs, and Samuel T.'s head was between her thighs, his hands gripping her hips as he worked her. Okay. Stepping back into a dark corner, Jin watched him finish what he was doing and then rear up over the woman. With rough hands, he freed his erection and mounted her. Why do we have to talk about it like it's a horse? The woman cried out loud enough so her hoarse voice could be heard on the other side of all that glass. Also, why does this guy have the code? For once, Jin did not put herself in the female's position. She'd seen him have sex many times before, sometimes when he'd known about it, sometimes when he hadn't. And inevitably, her body had always responded as though she were the one beneath him, on top of him, pushed up against a wall by him. Okay, so how many times has this guy had sex in a house that's not his? Not now. That would have been too painful, because she knew she was never going to have him again. Hugh Wynn. After all their years of battle, she had put down her armaments first, and he hadn't believed her. And when he finally had taken her seriously, events had conspired against them. He was not going to play this game with her anymore. She'd seen the hints of resolve when he'd blown off her declaration of love the day before, and the final nail in the coffin had been put in out in the garden. It was done. Chin stayed where she was until he orgasmed, and then she had to blink away tears as his head jerked back on his spine, and his neck strained and his body pumped hard 4 more times. Perhaps unsurprisingly, his face showed no evidence of pleasure, the release having apparently been something generated only by his body. How is she able to see his face and he doesn't know she's there? Throughout the bucking, he remained as grim as she felt, his expression blank, his half-open eyes unfocused. Yes, he's really drunk. Meanwhile, however, the female went into spasms that were too ugly to have been faked. No doubt the darling girl would have preferred to impress him with a more artful expression of her passions in hopes of this being the start to something. But movie star sex poses were hard to maintain when Samuel T. was inside of you. Why? Why? I need a goddamn explanation. Why? Why does every guy, and this guy's like a third-rate, hang-on, nobody character, except that we know he's going to end up with Jin somehow. But why does all the guys, even the boring ones, have to be unbelievable in bed? So much so that they ruin sex forever for any other guy trying to sleep with this woman because they don't measure up. And it's like, there's so much wrong with it. You know, one of my favorite lines about sex is it comes from Xena, of all places, who, by the way, they understood sex. I mean, it was a show about two lesbians in the time of the Greek gods. So they understood sex. But they find a group of Amazons once, a young tribe. Their queen has been killed, so they've been a little unguided. They're all very young and inexperienced, and the Amazon girls are not allowed to look at boys. There's no boys in the Amazon world until they need to mate, and that's one of the movies that definitely would not be made today because sexist. That was one of the Hercules movies, to be fair. And so they're all like super boy crazy and curious about sex, and so Xena's trying to tell them a little bit about it without telling them too much. And my favorite line to explain sex has always been, well, she tells them, the good thing about sex is that it's different every time. And the bad thing about sex is that it's different every time. And I'm like, I get that. That makes perfect sense. I get that. That's a very good way to explain sex. Because that is true, and that's why this is bullshit. There's no way a guy is just some performance house dynamo that makes you see stars every time you fuck. That exists in porn, not the real world. That's my snoo snoo. Somebody told me where that's from and I don't remember. And I've heard it referenced in other things, but I don't know. Is it from a comedy movie or something stupid? Does it have anything to do with sex? Futurama? Is it a weapon in Futurama? Or is it... Wait, Futurama's a cartoon, though. Is it what they have to... Is it they can't say sex, so they say snoo snoo? Oh, definitely with large Amazon women. Are there Amazon women in Futurama? I know the robot character and I recognize probably 2-3 of the characters if I saw them. I don't know all their names. I've never seen a full episode of it. I don't know what the premise of it is. I know it's been on literally forever. But yeah, I don't know anything about Futurama. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm getting stuffy. Whatever is blooming around here is clearly blooming right now, and I'm allergic to it. What does it mean when your ear pops when you blow your nose? Thank you, Sarah, for whatever clip you just sent me. I'll watch it as soon as we're finished. Jin stepped even further back until the cold, damp wall informed her there was no more retreat permitted. She knew he was going to leave fast, and he did. Moments later, the vapor lock was sprung as the door was opened, and Jin curled in on herself, dropping her eyes and not breathing. Sure, Samuel T. said in an even tone. I'd love to. Yeah, blowing this girl up. Will you help me do up my dress? You can reach it. He was already striding off. Come on, we better go. Oh, God, I'd throw my shoe at the back of his head. Wait for me. Yeah, dude, don't treat her like garbage, like, right after sex. Come on. Giggles, jiggles, too, no doubt, as the sound of high heels clipped along the concrete echoed around like the woman was running to catch up to him. Hold my hand, the female asked. Sure, I'd love to. Why do we, again, this is leftover writing from her Black Dagger Brotherhood when she keeps doing the female thing, because in that book, the vampires refer to themselves as like males and females. They don't use like man because those are human words. There was a smack of two sets of lips meeting, and then the sounds of footfalls on concrete diminished into the distance. After a while, Jin stepped out of the shadows. The light had been left on inside the wine cellar, which was very unlike Samuel T. What most didn't know about him was that he was a slave to his compulsive need to have things in order. In spite of the fact that he was a hard-living playboy, he couldn't handle things out of place. Everything from the suits he wore to the cars he kept, from his law practice to his stables. From his bedroom to his kitchen to his bathrooms, he was a man with control issues. That sounds great. She knew the truth, though. She had seen him get stuck in rituals, had had to talk him out of them from time to time, so he's like OCD and he doesn't always manage. It was an intimacy she was willing to bet her only child's life on that he shared with no one else. Now she shivered, not because of the cold air and the damp. The inescapable sense that she had well and truly ruined something robbed her of her breath. Tucking in upon herself, she retreated back against the wine cellar's glass wall, slid down the concrete floor, and wept. End of chapter. And we're going to call it a night. I know it's 10 minutes early, but we're going to call it a night. Hey, so we made it. We made it to the end of the chapters that I had listed. That was good. And Puppy has gone back under his puppy. He's gone back under the puppy bed. He literally just came out to get cuddled and has gone back to sleep. He got cuddled, he had a drink of water, and now he's back under the puppy bed, probably curled up in the exact same spot that would have been nice and warm and waiting for him. This is why he's his little cocoon in there, because he's got pillow, then he's got the blanket that came with him as a puppy that I've had to cut him out of several times because it's falling apart, but I don't dare ever try to get rid of it because he would die. He curls up in the middle of the blankie, and then the puppy bed is on top of it, which has like foam in it, so it's nice and warm, and he's got his warm little cocoon that he sleeps in. He's very, very happy. But pets are good at making themselves comfortable. Even if they have to lay fully on top of you to do it. I was in bed the other night and he had himself in a weird position, and you know how they stretch out when you rub the belly? His foot was like almost going in my mouth. Of course, he didn't care because he was getting his belly rubbed and he was happy and probably had no clue where his foot was. I was like, Puppy, Bobby, your foot! Of course, he didn't see a problem with this, because puppy, and he was having a good time. Oh, you know what I am going to do super quick? Just see if things get a little glitchy, blame my computer, but I want to look this up really fast so I can plan. Okay, it's listed. The new E.L. James book, which is apparently called Land of Ghosts. Somehow I missed the title before, or I wasn't paying enough attention to it. Land of Ghosts. That's the best we could do, really? This is such a lame title. It's coming out on October 20th, so we might be finished these by then. Let's see, July, August, September. Yeah, it might. The timing actually might work out very well. Actually, that might work out well for us. Timing could be good. Oh god, it has an X script now. God, and it's being... It says reading age 16 to 18? What are the 50 Shades listed as for reading age? Because they can't be... They have to be like... What, like 21 and up? Hold on, let's see what it actually says. It doesn't have one. Wait, why does the new book have a listed reading age and 50 Shades doesn't? Are you just supposed to know that it's for adults? Because believe me, it came out when I was still in high school. I saw plenty of not adults reading those books. Usually stolen from their mom. Oh god, even the X script sounds terrible. Let's read it to fill a few minutes because I'm bored. In a single devastating moment, I lost everyone I ever loved. Now I'm in London, because she's obsessed with London. Living with my sort of Uncle Dylan, so not related. And the only thing we have in common is loss. This new life isn't a life. It's unbearable. Except there's someone else here. A young man. He can't be real. Can he? If you're asking this, seek help. He's funny, cool, infuriating, and he understands me in a way no one else does. But only I can see him. This means you're hallucinating. Seek help. Before I know it, he's all I can think about, all I can dream about. And I just wish I could touch him. I wish he could touch me. Am I falling in love with a ghost? I think we read that before, but it is so horrible that I completely wiped it out of my brain. Does that not sound like somebody going crazy, though? I'm sorry, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like someone losing their mind. It also is the plot of Sub Rosa, I swear. Like, that's gonna be the thing. Whereas with the 365 books, it was every time it ripped off 50 Shades. When we get to that piece of garbage, it's gonna be every time it's ripping off Sub Rosa. Because that is the fucking plot of Sub Rosa. Yeah, the doctor's grandmother passes away, so we have somebody died. She goes to the colony where the grandmother lived. So we have moving in, meets people that knew her grandmother, starts seeing a man that only she can see. Immediately, keeping in mind they had a 45-minute runtime, immediately falls head over heels, hopelessly in love with this man that only she can see. Has a couple very pornographic scenes I'm amazed they got away with on TV at all. And then, of course, he turns out to be, like, sort of evil. It's a bad episode, okay? If it was in another show, it would be fine. But in Star Trek, doesn't really work. But I don't know. It was in the season where they ran out of ideas, so that's why it got made. But it is exactly what is written there. Because at one point, other characters, including the captain, are questioning her sanity because only she has seen this man, and she's acting super weird, and decides she's gonna like give up her commission, abandon the Enterprise, and live in this colony where her grandmother lived, and stay with this man that she met yesterday. And yet nobody actually stops her, by the way. Like, somebody that you think is like having some kind of mental crisis after which would make sense because her grandmother was very important to her and her grandmother's just died, so it makes sense that she's not in her right mind right now. And yet nobody stops her when she wants to leave the ship to go live on a colony in the outer nowhere with a guy that only she has seen, that other characters don't believe is real. I don't know. It's a weird episode. It's very weird. So, sorry we didn't have more Puppy. But he apparently has very important napping to do, which does not bode well for me, because usually when he's sleeping this much, he's a brat. But that is going to do it for us this week. I think we've got about another, let's see, if we've got roughly 140 pages left, and we've been going about 60 pages per week. We've got 2, maybe 3 weeks left of this, and then we've got 2 more books that look like they're about the same length. So I think we powered through this in probably about 6 weeks. Sounds right? So the other 2 would be at 12, which is 3 months, which, yeah, the timing should work fairly well. And we still have the Anais Nin. I can always fill in a week or 2 with that if we have to, because there's plenty of stories we haven't read in there that I hope are better than the one we read last week. Though I'm starting to get the impression that it is famous for being a book of erotica that somebody was forced to write. I don't know. I haven't looked up the history because I didn't want to spoil things. But thank you everyone for being here. Oh no! My clip broke. And I've lost the piece. No, I haven't. It's in my bra. This is what crazy glue is for. Which I think I have some. Oh well, I'll get on to fixing that. Maybe I can melt it. I mean, it's plastic. If I burn it enough, it'll melt, right? Maybe I'll try crazy glue to start with. But thank you everyone for being here. I hope it's cooler now that it's night wherever you are, that you have air conditioning. I hope it's cooler for next week, certainly. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for all your help telling me what snoo is as I'm looking at a clip. I'm looking at the thumbnail for the clip, and is the one guy not wearing pants? Why is somebody not wearing pants? Futurama's always struck me as being a very weird cartoon, and I'm thinking I may be more right than I knew. It is like mainly for adults though, right? It's not really for kids? I don't know. I have a feeling I'm about to find out. But thank you everyone for being here. Bo says thank you too. Have a great weekend. Love yourself. Love a fur baby. I've been Insane Lane, and this has been Tea and Rose's Book Club. Stay cool out there, and always take care of yourself. Love on a fur baby. I'll see you all next week. Night Persnickety, night Sarah, night Sethale, night Deacon. I think that was everyone tonight. I'll say goodnight to Nightwolf even though he's not here. But me and the ducks will see everyone next week. Take care of you. Bye-bye.